Friends, fans, and fine folk, grab your drinks and snacks and come on down to the campfire for this short rest. With me and my friend, the Mandii! How you doing, Mandii?
Doing great. How are you, Rob?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm very well. It's good to have you here. It's been a little while, a month or so since I saw you at Gen Con last.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's already been a month. Wow.
Yeah, I know. There's just so much going on that it's just immediately on to the next thing and thinking about the next thing. You going to, is it PAX Unplugged that's next?
Yeah, PAX Unplugged next.
It was Gen Con, and then as soon as I got back from Gen Con, I heard people talking about Dragon Con, because that was coming up right away, and then Dragon Con's just been and gone, so it's PAX Unplugged next, and then PAX Australia is coming up for me, that's early October. And then we were just before we went live, we were just talking about the GaryCon early next year as well. It's just you could that could be a full-time job, couldn't it? Just like going around to every convention, just one to the next to the next to the next, and then it just starts again.
I wish that was my full-time job.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking that actually sounds pretty good. It's for someone who enjoys travel and enjoys meeting people. Sounds fun for like maybe a year or two. And then be like, I need a few years off. I need a few years off.
I can't do it anymore.
After you've done every single convention in the circuit, you just be like, okay, I'll pick the ones that I've enjoyed the most, and I'll do this one, this one, and this one in a year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't believe how many people asked me like immediately after Gen Con, like, are you at Dragon Con this weekend? Are you in Atlanta? And I'm like, no, I'm in the middle of moving. Go away. I don't want to be at Dragon Con. Like, I wish I could be at Dragon Con, but I can't, so I don't want to.
Yeah. I've not. That's one I've not been to yet. I've barely started my my dipping my toes into the convention scene. I've been to Armageddon, which is the Auckland one, and it's real tiny. But it was quite fun, and it was a good one to be like the first one I went to, because it was like the sort of one where you can get around it in half a day. You go, I've seen everything. I'm kind of bored.
It's definitely good to start small.
Yeah, and then I went PAX Australia last year, and then I went Gen Con. So I ramped up pretty quick from a half day convention at Armageddon to Gen Con as my third ever convention. And then next year hoping to get to GaryCon for the 50th anniversary of D&D. Looking forward to it. So before we get jumped in too much, let's set up the short rest. So this series is called Short Rest, which implies that we're in the middle of something, some kind of a quest maybe. What are we doing? Are we on some kind of a journey? Is it like a big epic world-ending quest, or is it just like a mundane, everyday catch 3 geese kind of quest?
Catch 3 geese. You know what? That sounds like a world-ending quest to me.
It could be.
Catching
the way that geese work. Anyway. so the quest is, we're on a quest to slay a bunch of gremlins, a bunch of tech gremlins.
And
there are just so many of them. They're like, is that somebody put in the thing? It's like a hydra. You cut down one tech gremlin and another 2 pop up. Somebody in my community actually made a bunch of artwork for the different types of tech gremlin, and then we did a stream where I went through and started them up. So we've got Pitch, I think his name was Pitch, is my audio gremlin. We've got Glitch, who's my my sort of visual gremlin. We've got Cable, who is a connectivity gremlin, and it was very fun. Giving them all different abilities. Now they've got stat blocks, and if they've got stats, they can be killed. That was the idea. Or reasoned with, because
or reasoned with, yeah. Maybe you can persuade them to go away.
Yeah, exactly. So
go away, tech issues.
So that we're slaying those down, and every time, and I think that was one of the abilities I gave them, that like if when you kill one, you have to roll a dice, and on a particular number they just spawn another one. because that was just like how it definitely feels when you're putting out tech. So that's our quest.
They're like tribbles. They multiply very quickly.
Where did we leave for this quest? Where are we sitting? Are we around a campfire? Are we hiding from them in a Faraday Faraday cage or something? Where the
oh my god. Goes? Campfire. Campfire sounds good.
Around a campfire. All right.
Yeah.
What are we drinking on this quest, both in real life or in the quest?
They can't find us here. I've got tea.
Does that say Twitch or Witch?
Witch.
Witch. Nice.
It's Halloween all year in this house.
Nice, big fan of Halloween, huh?
Oh yeah, it's my favorite.
Yeah, I'm quite a fan of Halloween as well, especially like doing one shots and specials and things. I do an interactive D&D game called Twitch Tales, where the chat control the actions of the character.
Oh yeah, I think I've tuned in for a couple of those.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, every other week or so we run an episode of it, and then at Halloween I always do like a standalone one shot, and it's quite fun. I think this will be the 4th year that I've done it now.
You should fight the Overgord for one of those.
The Overgord?
The Overgord is a big pumpkin monster.
Oh, nice. I was on a channel once, the Art of Adventure, with name of the channel is blanking me right now. It's Dollar Store DM. The Dollar Store DM channel, and I did a Halloween special with them, and I ran a one shot where everybody was trick or treaters essentially, and there was like a behold a pumpkin monster for that one.
I love that.
With lots of tiny pumpkins hovering around.
I love that so much. Halloween anything really, but especially if you turn it into a TTRPG thing, sign me up. Yeah, for sure. It's it just lends itself really well to it, and you can do like childish sort of silly horror, or you can go like really deep, disgusting, gory horror. And, yeah, it was good stuff. So Mandii, tell me about the name. Why the Mandii? Well, I've actually had this name for a very long time. My full name, if you can't guess, is Amanda. And so Mandii is a cute kind of, different thing. I wanted it to be more fun, more personal. And I decided to add an extra I because why not? That was like the trend at the time. It probably still is a trend somewhere.
Because
it's trendy.
SEO, right? Because
branding.
Branding.
And I have the name cornered just about everywhere for the most part.
Anytime a new goddamn social media platform pops up, you can just be like, the Mandii.
I park it every time if I can.
I did that with every I've even got an OnlyFans because I was like, just on the off chance that somebody wants to take my name and put it on OnlyFans and then fuck with me, I'll like sit on it, I'll try and blackmail me or something and be like, oh look, he's a real guy.
I didn't think of that. I should have done that.
Anytime there's a new one, I'll just be like, I'll grab that. I'll grab this one.
Yep.
At the time that Twitch
even
was
for something
like,
you're never gonna use.
Everything that when Twitch was starting to turn into the cesspool that it's like it became this. Everybody was just like rushing to be the next thing, and you were hearing about Mastodon and Hive and all these other ones, and I was like, I guess I've got to put my name on that one as well now.
Yeah, I think I've got enough of them at this point where if you just Google my username, it's me. I'm the first thing that pops up. So that's good at least. Yeah,
that works. So let's go way back to discussing like early days. How did you get into TTRPGs?
So I've actually, for a very long time, probably since I was in high school, was interested in games like Dungeons and Dragons, but I didn't have any friends who I knew played, and found out many years later that they were all playing, but they were closet about it and didn't tell people at school. And I was like, no, you should have told me. We could have had so many adventures. So I actually didn't get into actually playing any TTRPGs until I was already in my 20s.
Right.
I dated a gentleman for a while, and he ran a game, and it turned into like this big group of friends where we would have a potluck every week, and we played Dungeon World. Because it was like a more, I guess, for lack of a better term, watered down version of D&D. Yeah. And it did eventually turn into D&D 5e, but every week for a couple of years, we had potlucks at different people's houses, and we would play every week.
Nice.
And so we would have dinner together,
move around
and
the location as well. So it would be like,
we would switch who was hosting, and cool. Well, we originally had it hosted in the local Irish pub. It was like a traditional Irish pub in the town that I was living in at the time. But we outgrew it very quickly because our party was 11 people.
Oh, that's too many people.
It was way too many people. But we had so much fun. Oftentimes it turned into social hour more than D&D.
Yeah, I'd imagine.
It was a lot of fun. And of course, my first character was a rogue who wanted all the treasure. So that was just, I feel like that's like everybody's first character is either the rogue that steals all the things or the fighter who is just, you know, a badass person who kills everything. Yeah, murder hobo, exactly. But I went the rogue route for that one. Yeah, and then from there,
it often comes much later when you start to create the like super flawed, deeply issued characters where you're like, I'm gonna lean into the fact I've got a -7 wisdom.
Oh god, I had no backstory in that game, which is so crazy because I'm so into character work now as a player as a GM. So then I didn't play after that game ended because unfortunately one of the people in our group passed away and we kind of decided it just wasn't the same after that. Years later, I decided I was working at a tech company at the time for my day job. And during Christmas time and all the holidays, we would have like nothing to do in the office and they would encourage us to bring in board games. So I raised my hand and went, does anybody want to play Dungeons and Dragons? And a bunch of people were like, yes, I want to play. And that was how I started DMing, was in person in the office for people I worked with, which turned into a home game. And then when COVID hit, I started DMing online, and that's how that all started. So yeah.
Was it that your first time DMing for that, or were you for the other game? Were you one of the DMs? Was it like rotating DMs or?
For the first stream game. For the first game.
So your first time DMing, when was it? Was that the one that
was in the office? Yeah,
that was the office.
That was the first time. They were my guinea pigs. I was like, listen, I've played before, but I've never run this before. Right. So if I suck, I'm sorry. And it ended up being a really good time.
What did you?
They were like, wow, you're really good at this.
What did you first notice about the biggest differences between playing and DMing?
So the biggest thing I noticed was that I liked GMing a lot more than being a player. I think just being able to organize everything and learning to anticipate what your players are going to do and learn how to adapt quickly when they do things that you don't anticipate was definitely the biggest difference, because as a player, you're reactionary all the time. It's difficult to plan what the GM is going to throw at you, but as the GM, you have to think about those things of different paths that a player might take so that you are at least somewhat prepared with the direction they're going to run in, hopefully. So I would say that's the biggest difference. I also find it much more rewarding than being a player most of the time.
Right, yeah. You enjoy playing
so that was a big
when you get the chance?
Oh, yeah. I actually... am I allowed to plug other channels right now?
Yeah. Chill chat. You plug whatever you want.
Gosh, for the last... I guess it's been like 6 months already now. I'm a regular cast member now over on the Mandii RPG channel here on Twitch.
Yeah, right.
And I play in Blades in the Dark campaign there, and I guest on some of their D&D games as well from time to time as different characters. So I still get my ability to play from time to time, and I get invited to like other streams as well. But Mandii's the one I spend the most time with them, so I gotta give them a little shout out.
I've been meaning to play Blades in the Dark as soon as I get the opportunity, because I've heard so much about it, and I accidentally just ripped off Blades in the Dark without knowing it because I hadn't played it. But there was a short arc of the Vive la Dirt League campaign that I run, where they had to do like a heist, essentially, like this reversed heist. They had a bunch of stuff to like plant in this criminal organization's hideout, and then alert the authorities and be like, look, we've got all this stuff. So they had to do like a reverse heist, break into the property, plant a bunch of evidence, and then get out of there without being seen.
Oh wow!
And so
I love that.
So I was like, so how I like to run heists, I've got this like unique mechanic that I came up with where basically you do some prep work and you roll a single roll for your prep work, and then depending on the results of your roll, I'll give you a bunch of like heist tokens, and then you can spend those heist tokens to be like, flashback, this is how I prepared for this particular moment. And then everybody in the comments was like, you steal this from Blades in the Dark? I was like, I haven't played it, but is that what it... And then I got the opportunity to play Blades in the Dark. Somebody who was setting it up, it ended up never actually happening, so I was even more edged, because I was sent the PDF to like look at it, and I was like, oh, this... As I'm reading it, I'm like, oh, Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe I started being like, maybe I have played this and I just stole it?
That's so
basically
funny.
The same mechanics.
You probably also had to sit through me ranting about it at Gen Con when everybody met up. Because they're like, what's your favorite system right now? I'm like, it's not D&D, I'll tell you that. Sorry.
Everybody's rogues,
I will always love
right?
Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah, everybody's rogues. Oh God, I could make the whole show about talking about my Blades character. I love her so much.
Let's do it. Tell me about your Blades character.
The class that I'm playing is called a Slide, and very much a social manipulator, spy, espionage kind of character. And so, of course, I made her a courtesan, because who's better with people than a sex worker?
Makes sense.
And so that's her whole premise. I mean, there's a lot more to her than that, but she's essentially one of the main faces of the party. When negotiations need to happen, she puts her little spin on it, and it oftentimes will work out the way we hope, except when you come up upon enemies who can't be swayed in that way. So that's a fun challenge. But yeah, she's also got some magic powers, because pretty much anybody can have powers in this game.
Yeah, right. Gotcha.
And that's a lot of fun too, because I can just hypnotize people into doing what I want, sort of, most of the time.
It's fun. It's fun to have a couple of options in the party for being the face, and like the different charismatic, because you find charisma along with like intelligence often one of the biggest dump stats. Like the things that those sorts of characters are just often like meh. You've usually got somebody in the party who's like huge and big and burly and can smash somebody, bruiser, breaker. And then you've got somebody who's like sneaky, stealthy kind of geezer, but like somebody who's actually super charming is like hit and miss. If you've got a bard type in your character, then you're gonna have somebody with charisma, but even then you've got like one or two. I recently started I did a session 0 for somebody, a group where 3 of the 4 players had a 16 in charisma to start with. At level 1.
Wow.
And, and the other one was like a 14 or a 12 or something. And I was like, oh wow, a really high charisma party for once. It's going to be a unique I started thinking like, okay, so for this campaign, that's telling me that they clearly want to play more of like a social deduction, kind of like a role play and talking your way out of things rather than like fighting your way out of things, which will be really interesting. It allows me a different opportunity for encounter design.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of fun. Going that way for sure.
We appear to have frozen. Oh, you're back. No,
oh, good. You did freeze for a second. Yeah. I wonder if it's me. I don't know. It's well.
Seems fine. Mind. We'll deal with it as it happens. So how long has this Blades campaign been going over at Mandii RPG?
So we are currently, it's been going since late March, early April. We are currently in season 3, and we have 2 more seasons after this. So we just started season 3.
And how is it being run? Like, is it a set number of episodes per season?
Yeah, so at the start of each season, we know how many episodes there's going to be, and a lot of it's based on like our schedule. So yeah. Hey, there's Spectre. She knows what's up. That's one of my mods on my channel.
Welcome, Spectre.
But so we know how many episodes are going to be. We know when this season is going to end, so we know how long we have to do what we need to do. And oh God, I'm gonna be so sad when the series is over.
It's always the case when you've gotten really attached to a particular character.
It's like a really good HBO show. Like, I know I'm not supposed to be like, yeah, this thing I'm doing, it's really, really good, but it is. We're all having so much fun.
You gotta love the stuff you do. You gotta love the work you do.
We've gotten such great feedback. Actually, I had somebody message me and be like, I canceled my Dimension 20 subscription and I've been watching this instead. And I'm like,
wow, holy shit.
Excuse me? Like, I was like, this is the highest. I was like, this is such high praise. Like, I don't know if I can handle this. Like, it's not even a game I'm running. I'm just playing it.
Nice.
It's just such a good.
It's just so fun. How many in the cast for it?
It changes. So we have a little bit of a rotating cast because we have folks who travel and do conventions and things like that. Life gets in the way. So we have the full cast is like almost 10 people, but we rotate like having not on screen at the same time. No. So we'll have like 4 people, 5 people, 6 people at the absolute maximum on screen, role playing. The ideal number is like 4 or 5. 5 is kind of pushing it, but
and
because
with Blades in the Dark, is it like designed to be a sort of each episode is kind of standalone, like you finish an entire quest or a heist or whatever within the episode, so that it can be a little bit more West matches kind of thing, where
typically, but it can be played in a campaign way. So like everything we're doing is a continuous story. Yeah. But yes, like each job is like its own self-contained thing that you handle in that episode.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense for having sort of a larger group then, because then you can't make a week. It's like, well, you're not on this job, but like you're part of a criminal organization, and we pick these 4 people to do it, right? That works.
Yep, absolutely.
It also helps for onboarding
really
new people, because that's one of the biggest problems with actual players online, is there's so many options, and people jump in halfway through a campaign and go, "What? Come get me up to speed. What is happening? Who are these characters? Why are they in the middle of this?"
The original reason why we ended up with so many people was because we went into the series thinking people were going to rotate out a lot, but then we loved it so much nobody wants to leave. So it's just whenever somebody can't play, somebody else jumps in, and now we're having to like switch people around a little bit to pretty much
to be like, hey, you've been here 4 weeks in a row now. You need to take time off so there's somebody else.
We're at that point where it's like, okay, it's time for somebody to take a couple of weeks off so somebody else can jump in and play, and it's so much fun. Oh my gosh, it's so much fun.
I'll have to try it. I see Mandii RPG on occasionally from time to time when I'm finishing. So I'll have to jump in when I'm not streaming at the same time. So you started out with playing, well, wanting to play back in high school, because I in a similar way I didn't really know anything about D&D growing up, but when I did get into D&D, I didn't really tell anybody because it's still nerdy and all this, until I was at a friend's house and like was looking for something in one of his drawers, and I opened up the wrong drawer and found like a bunch of Warhammer minis, and I was like, oh, are these D&D minis? And he goes, oh no, and he was all real like, oh no, he's found out that I play Warhammer.
Oh no,
he's like,
I'm exposed.
Warhammer minis, and I was like, oh cool, is that like D&D? I've just started getting into D&D, and he was like, have you gotten into? Oh, and then suddenly we were talking about D&D, and talking about, and I was like, and then and he goes, run me a game, and so I just like improvised. Yes. He was like, I'll get Alan round, and he called his friend and was like, come round to the house, we're gonna play D&D.
Oh, I love that. That's so fun.
I just improvised the game for them because, hey, don't keep your passions to yourself. Your friends might actually be secretly into it as well. So you absolutely you heard about D&D from an early age. Then you finally got the chance. How did it become something that you do online? How did the streaming element of it begin?
So. It's a lot of it started because of COVID, but actually just before then I had started talking to some folks who were part of a channel called Praetor's Rejects. They don't run as many games anymore these days. I think they're on a hiatus. But I started as a player for that, for a Dragon Heist campaign that was run by the owner of the channel. And then after that, I ran Tomb of Annihilation on the channel, and that was my first professional Dungeon Master gig, because I did get paid for doing that. And I was like, okay, cool. This is a
Tomb of Annihilation.
I mean, I've DM'd other things before, so at that point, because I had a home game, I had a homebrew game, and I had done Dragon Heist on my own prior to starting streaming, and so I was like, Tomb of Annihilation, let's do it. This is an adventure that hasn't been done on the channel yet. We can take it. I'll just take the people that I was playing with as a player, and I'll DM for them, and it'll be a whole thing. And it was, and we played it for way too long. By the end, we couldn't stand it anymore because it's such a slog. I actually fast-forwarded through like half of the end boss dungeon so that they could get to the actual fight so we could be done. Because we were like, okay, I love you guys, and I love playing D&D with you guys, but we need to get done with this. And they're like, please, can we please? Let's get to something else.
You find a gemstone that teleports you to the end, because...
Pretty much. I erased an entire floor. I was like, you just skip this part. We're going to go straight to the boss at this point.
Yeah,
TOA was an intense campaign.
I've tried playing Tomb of Annihilation once for a charity game. I think it might have been like one of Dreaded GM's 24-hour things or something. I don't really remember, but it was just like, it was notorious. Like when I started looking into it, it was just notorious for like, haha, you die.
There's literally a warning in the beginning of the book that says, don't forget to tear up your players' character sheets when you kill them, inevitably, as part of this campaign.
Yeah, and I just don't like. I'm sure it's some people's jam, but I was just like, but why?
Yeah,
What's the point of a module like that where it's just designed to be like, haha, your character's dead because you picked the wrong direction and that you're dead now. You put your hand in that thing, you're dead. You opened that door, you're dead.
You're dead. You're just dead. Sorry. That's it. And I hate stuff like that. Actually, I was like, you know what? It was as fun as it was to play with the people that I was playing with. I will never run this again. It was not my favorite, but I wanted to see it through to the end at least.
Oh, yeah.
And I came up with like creative ways to like get them to travel faster, because that's the worst part. Like I'm sure there are old school players out there who love the hex crawl, who love the dungeon crawl. Power to you, but I like to role play. And so do my players. I tend to only recruit players who are really into role play, so it's like, ooh, I have to balance this now. And hex crawls are boring.
How do you recruit your players? Is it just people you'd been playing with in person and you were like, these are charismatic enough to make it work on the stream? Was it?
So for this group, for the Tomb Annihilation group and the group I was a player in first on that channel, they were friends that I recruited separately and got them to all meet up and was like, hey, okay, everybody say hello. Now we're going to play D&D together. I put the cast together for the DM because he was like, do you know anyone? I'm like, hell yeah, I do. So I advertised on my social medias at the time and stuff like that. This was before I made the brand switch from being an artist on Twitch to doing the TTRPG thing on Twitch. Right. And I was like, hey, who wants to play D&D with me? And a bunch of people were like, me? Yeah. And that's how I put the cast together with some of my closer friends, because I advertised it on like my Facebook page and stuff like that. And so I took those same people into Tomb of Annihilation, and now that I run my own things and I'm not doing other people's adventures for the time being, my homebrew game Mist Lost that I run on Wednesdays, I did a very lengthy process of taking applications, and I ended up with like 80 something people applying, which was crazy, in like a month or two of having submissions be open, and then I went through them all.
Wow.
And
what were you
essentially I was looking for a diverse cast. The cast, including myself, although I don't really look at, is all BIPOC. So all people of color. All of us on the cast are also queer, and we're all TTRPG creators. And that was really important to me to have a diverse table, so that we could bring all of our different perspectives to the game. And that was, raising voices like that is super important to me. Diversity is very important to me. And so that's mainly what I was looking for. But I was also looking for people who wanted similar things out of the game. So I had an application where I explained what the game was about, what the premise was, what the vibes were, what I am like as a GM, and all of those things. And then questions based on, how I can vet these people. So what are your social medias? Please provide at least one public one. Are you open to using safety tools? What kind of adventure are you looking for? Do you like detailed role play, stuff like that? And I basically went through every single one of them, weeded out the people who just did not apply correctly. Because there were a surprising number of people who applied who said they had no social media, and I'm like, how can I vet you for a live show if you don't have social media that I can look at to make sure you're not like a creepy, horrible person? Like, how am I gonna know? I mean, there's only so much you can do, but, at least have that. And went through all those and narrowed it down to like a top 10. I interviewed all the top 10 people that I picked, and then I picked my cast from that.
Nice. Do you have any sort of a chemistry test game beforehand with the
So we did have a session 0 with the original cast that I chose. And then one person unfortunately had to drop out for family reasons. And so we collectively voted on who we would recruit to fill that spot from the people from the top 10, as like a backup, and everybody clicked immediately, because I kind of picked my cast based on the personality feel I got from speaking to them during the interview process. And I had to, I would take notes on like how their mannerisms seemed, what their attitude seemed like, how they talked about games, what kind of history they had with streaming and podcasts and things like that as well. And even if they didn't, what kind of experience they had in their home games and things like that, and what they were looking for. And I was able to put together, I got to tap myself on the back a little bit, a very good cast based on that, because just from me looking for certain personality types, people with the same kind of beliefs and stuff like that, the chemistry was immediate. There were no issues or awkwardness or anything like that. Yeah,
that's good to hear. And tell me the differences you've noticed in going from running modules to running a homebrew situation. Like what were your takeaways from running modules? Because I've never really done it.
So I think modules are great for people who don't want to write their own thing. I think I think modules are great for that. I think they're a good sandbox to build off of if you do want to start homebrew, but you don't know how to get started. Using a module as a jumping off point, I think, is a great way to do that. Homebrew can be very intimidating for a lot of people, and some people just don't necessarily want to or have the time or the ability to put in that amount of work, because people sorely underestimate, even with improv, how much prep work goes into building a homebrew world, homebrew campaign, and centering that around your cast. So that's the number one difference, I think, is the sheer amount of work between the two.
And you found that there's a lot less prep for modules, because I've always wondered that like they can't possibly give you everything you need for a home. Like they can't.
No, they never do. No, you still have to make shit up.
Yeah. So, but
Pardon my French, but
it is just a lot less.
Yeah.
You can refer back to the module.
It is a lot less, but you do have to. So I guess there's like a difference. So you do still have to read the book to a point, and that I think can be kind of daunting, especially for someone like me. Whereas when you write your own setting, you write your own campaign, even if you're building off of Forgotten Realms or whatever, when you're writing it yourself, you kind of know what you've written, and you don't have to necessarily always go back and read because it's in your brain already. Or at least for me, that's how it works. Like I have extensive notes and I have like documents and stuff like that to go to if I forget things. Yeah. But for the most part, for what I've built, I just know. They'll ask me a question like, what date are we at in the calendar in this world? And I can tell them. Yeah. Stuff like that. So for me, homebrew's easier because it's mine. Nobody's going to know if I deviate from my own homebrew because I built it. So yeah,
which is even better when you're not doing it for any sort of live or streamed or anything like that, because the only people that are hearing it are the people that are there at the game in the room. And if they say like, who's the god of luck again, and you go, it was so and so, and you get it wrong, then it's like nobody knows, nobody cares.
Now it's
they're not gonna write it down. They're not writing it down. So next time if they ask you, you can say a different word.
It's that TikTok audio.
Yeah.
How would they know?
How would they know? They're gonna know. Look behind the screen. It's like I've nothing written down. Sexy goblin? Question mark.
Every time
it's always sexy goblin.
Every time it's a sexy goblin.
So what's your experience with TTRPGs like? You say you're really enjoying the Blades in the Dark. You've done a lot of D&D.
Yeah.
What else have you played in? What else you GM'd?
I have so right now I only GM D&D 5e. That's the only GMing I have done so far. I am working on top secret. I'm working on a project for a different system right now. That may or may not be on Mandii RPG. I have to write up a pitch and see if they're interested. But I am working on that. And I'm not going to tell you guys what the system is. It is a secret. It's all a secret.
It's an existing system, though. It's not.
It is an existing system. Yeah, no. I am working on a TTRPG system slowly but surely as like a pet project, but nice. I don't talk about it on socials or anything like that because I don't know if I'm ever gonna finish it. I'm just doing it for fun. But in terms of things that
I've homebrewed enough about D&D that I'm like, eventually this is just gonna morph into like Pathfinder did. This will just morph into my own system because of all of the house rules. I'll just be like, yeah. So it's I play D&D, but Nat 20's actors this, and it's this and this and this, and curses actually this way, and skill checks in my games, like blah 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 blah.
Yeah, exactly, and you can turn it into its own thing pretty easily. In terms of playing, I have played Alien RPG. That's a lot of fun.
Oh, nice.
If you like Xenomorphs, highly recommend.
I shall pick your brain about it because I have it right here.
Oh yes,
ready to learn. I haven't learned it yet because I was given it by the Viva La Dirt League guys. They wanted to play it.
Oh.
They very naively took it round to one of them's house on like a games night, and were like, "We'll learn this and play this tonight." And I was like, "That's not how TTRPG works like this. Not one like this. You want to learn and play it in a single night. You want to pick a 1-page RPG like Grant Howitt or something. You don't pick up a box set of Alien the role playing game and expect to be able to learn it and run it.
So I've done that. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. You almost inevitably die. Oh hey, okay, SDM, what's up? What else have I done? Obviously D&D. I've played a little teeny itty bit of Pathfinder. That's about to change soon. I'm going to be in a Curse of Strahd Pathfinder game in which Strahd is a woman. Yeah, saucy.
But Strahd, my pearls.
Yeah.
Who's running that one?
One of my players for my Miss Lost game, Akinomi Art. And what channel is it going to be on? It's going to be on Nameless Domain. I don't have details for a start date yet. We just did our session 0, so they didn't tell me I couldn't talk about it, so I'm talking about it. So very little bit of Pathfinder. I did a couple of one-shots in Pathfinder 2E. I've done old school D&D, obviously, with Lord Gasumba, which I feel like is a totally different game from 5e. I feel like that counts as a separate thing, especially because his version is so heavily homebrewed, like it's its own thing.
Yeah, I'm really interested to play like by the books 1e and 2e at some point and see how it actually plays. Especially if they if it's a GM that gives you all of your character sheet and your numbers and stuff, because Lord Gasumba makes it so easy to just be in his game because he's like, I've been playing this 40 some years, and I know the Thaco back of my hand. Like, you got a table, you look it up, easy peasy, and he does all the maths and stuff for you. I'd be really interested to play a game where it's just like, no, you have to play it like we would have been playing it in the 80s, with everybody having to work out their own maths and stuff, and just to get the experience of it.
No thanks. No, I hate math. Fuck that. No, thank you. I've also played Hunter the Reckoning. I did a mini series with Mandii for that as well.
That's in the Vampire the Masquerade world, right?
Yeah, World of Darkness, absolutely. I love my Hunter. I can't wait to play her again soon. TM. And what else? Let me look at my thing. I've played Shadowrun.
Oh right,
that was really interesting.
That is also
I did that. I did that on the Guild Superior channel. That was a lot of fun. And I was a decker, so of course I was. Oh, nice. And I got to live like my anime hacker girl dreams. It was very fun. I played Morkborg. That's a lot of fun.
Oh, I haven't played Morkborg yet. That's on my list of things to play.
First of all, the book alone is a reason to like at least give it a try because the art is incredible.
Yeah, I've heard.
I actually met the gentleman who did all the art for Pirate Borg.
Right.
At Gen Con. Like, I just ran into him randomly, and I'm like, oh, cool, what you got there? And he was like, oh, just this, this thing that I made. And I'm like, what the okay, cool, that's random. Very interesting experience. But yeah, Morkborg's a lot of fun. It's like horror, visceral, wacky craziness.
It's one of those where you're gonna die, right? It's like, you're gonna die in this.
I somehow didn't, but it's very possible. It's very brutal. Lots of fun. I think that's it. I think I'm going to be playing Cyberpunk in the future as well. Cyberpunk Red. And I think
that's another one that's on my list to play. I haven't played Shadowrun yet. I did voice acting for a Shadowrun audiobook, and so that was my introduction to the Shadowrun world. And then when I was at Gen Con just gone, I met up with Rem Altinus and we played Shadowrun on Gen Con TV, I think it was.
That's awesome.
It was what's Catalyst Games? It was Catalyst Games on Twitch channel, and we played Shadowrun for that. That was my first introduction to actually playing it. And then afterwards, she was like, "Here, have the starter set, and have a bunch of dice, and have this, and have that, and have this." And I was like,
"That's amazing.
This is so much. Are you sure?" And she's like, "Yes, I'm sure. I want you to play it because I want it to get out there. I want you to tell people about how cool this game is." And I went home and read the rulebook a little and started unpacking it all, unboxing it, and I'm very, very excited to actually play it. I think I'm gonna learn it and run like a 3-shot or something of it on my channel when to tie in with when my audiobook is released for it. So and I can be like, "Hey, look, I've if you like this thing, I also did an audiobook of it." So I'm very excited.
Awesome.
I really enjoyed the setting and the sort of the nature of how the game plays, and just big fistfuls of dice is always fun to roll.
Oh my god,
like
yeah,
17d6.
That was my favorite part. That was my favorite part. Was rolling dice, because we got to roll dice at home for that. So I was like, hold on, let me get out all my d6s, get out giant dice bag. Here we go, because I had really beefed up my character, and I think all the upfront math can be very intimidating when you're building your character and figuring out what does what. But thankfully my GM is amazing. Bleak Season, if you're out there, I love you, dude. And he made it very simplified. He changed some things to make it easier and like walked through character building with every player, because it was just a 3-shot thing, very short mini series. Because I was like, wow, this is really intimidating, because I'm not a numbers person. I've never been good at math. That's just not my forte. I'm a creative person. I don't have the blessing of both. But he made it a lot easier. And once the character's built, it's really not so bad. It's not it's not bad at all. And the world is so cool.
Upfront math, like you do it once and then you don't have to be doing it every session to be like, oh god, how do I calculate this modifier? Or
Cyberpunk plus fantasy, like you can't go wrong with that. That's so cool. So yeah, I really like the Shadowrun world. Hey Jay, what's up?
So
speaking
D&D,
of which,
speaking of which, so Log Zumba is, correct me if I'm wrong, the reason we met, like that was how we first met, yes? So we first met over on Log Zumba's channel, playing in an amalgamation of 1E, 2E, in a group called the Slav Squat Squad.
Yep. The Slav Squad. Everybody must squat in solidarity.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I was very much looking forward to being involved in that, because that was my first introduction to anything outside of 5e.
Really?
I'd played 5e. I'd played like a couple of one shots of various different, like I'd played Dread, and I'd played what's the one? Not werewolf, not vampire. Wraith. The I can't remember what it's even called.
Oh gosh, I don't know.
World of Darkness.
Wraith something. Wraith the
something. Yeah, Wraith the something. I played one shot of that. Even before
Wraith
I was
the
really
Oblivion.
Into Wraith the Oblivion. Before I'd even gotten into like TTRPGs in general, I'd played one of those. So I'd played like small things here and there, just as like one shots, not really realizing that like TTRPGs was going to be my thing. And then when I started getting into TTRPGs, it was pretty much only 5e. And then Lord Kazumba, I started getting to know him through Twitch and raids and things. And he invited me on. I was like, hell yeah. And it was like, all right, so here's a character for you. You can play this and this and blah blah blah. And then the introduction to the differences of the games was really fascinating. Like at one point in the session, we went through like a trapped doorway, and we rolled high enough to notice that there was poison on the walls of the like door frame. So if you'd have brushed against it, you'd have got poisoned or something. And I was like, oh, since we've noticed that, can I like scrape off the poison and coat my blades or whatever? And he goes, well, you can, but as a paladin, that'll lose all of your paladin powers, because that's an evil thing to do, and you have to be good as a paladin in this game. And I was like, yeah, that's right. Oh. Alignments are a thing, and they're important, rather than just being like in 5e, just a product of the past that they haven't actually been able to axe yet, because people would be too up in arms about it. but they have basically no game mechanics in 5e. And in Jay's game, it was like, no, you can do things, you can do whatever you want. Still, it's a role playing game, but it has major consequences on your abilities and your features and your spells and things.
Mm-hmm.
They're goodies, yes.
Absolutely, goodies.
Am I coming to GaryCon? I am going to be coming to GaryCon, hopefully, Lord Gazumba. It's not locked in yet finances, finances. You got to be able to afford these things. And from New Zealand, it costs a hell of a lot to get out there. But I'm hoping to. That's my intention.
Fingers crossed. Time to start raising money, chat. Let's go.
So how did you meet?
Let's get around back.
How did you meet Lord Gazumba?
I met Lord Gazumba through the Praetor's Rejects channel because Duff, the owner of Praetor's Rejects, and Jay are friends, and that was how I kind of got involved with them. And he was like, "Yeah, I want to put together a cast of all femme presenting people," and I was like, "That's me. Hi, I'll play." And invited my very good friend Myriad as well. And also Little Bones 309 and Darling Creepshow and a couple other creators who have kind of rotated in and out.
Yeah.
But we're kind of like the core of the Slav Squad. And we all became friends through that, which is pretty amazing.
That particular group begin? Like, how did you become the Slav Squad?
So I don't remember. Somebody decided to like Slav squat, and then we were like, okay, I do it too. I do it in solidarity, and we were all just squatting. And I don't remember how that. I have to go back, and it was definitely Bones. Yes, it was definitely. We did name ourselves. So when we were thinking of our name, I think I'm the one who said Slav Squat Squad because I love alliteration.
Yeah. And things that are just very difficult to say. Slav Squat Squad. Yep.
Oh my God, Jay could not say it for like the first 3 sessions, which was like over 3 different months. He had such a hard time. He had no idea what it meant. We had to explain to him what a Slav squat was. We had to show him like the memes. It was just very funny. We wanted to just be off the wall for this game, and so far I think we've done a pretty good job of being off the wall and goofy and funny. So
nice.
Yeah, I really enjoy that group a lot.
That's all good.
Yeah, well, our references have to balance out your super obscure ancient references that nobody understands, Jay. We give him crap all the time for that.
So tell me about the your campaign, the Mist Lost.
Mist Lost. Yes. Yeah. So it is an entirely homebrew world, homebrew gods, homebrew multiverse, everything. And it is built off of 5th edition, so the playable races are, lineages are mostly the same as what is available in 5e. I have taken some things out because they're not relevant to my mythos at all. Mm-hmm. Like Warforged are not a thing. Right. Dragonborn are not a thing yet in this world. And some other lineages as well simply don't exist yet. And it is worlds on top of worlds, which is fun. And they are currently exploring this druidic society in which the country of origin that all the players start in, the Vale of Night, is kind of protected by this bubble of eternal night. It's not artificial. It's just a bubble where the sun does not interfere at all, because these people kind of need that to live. A lot of them are like sunlight sensitive or can't be in the sun or whatever the case might be.
And so the druids have been like, no sun here.
Pretty much. And that magic is being threatened. And there have been like flickers of it not working anymore, which could be catastrophic because the bubble also houses all the magic that they need to survive. For their society to survive.
Suddenly, like your mum coming into your bedroom when you're not getting up for school, and you're like, get up, and opening the curtain. No, Mum, no.
Yes. So it could have potentially catastrophic.
Entire country that's been used to no sun. How do they? Yep. So you've thought through like the world building implications of like no photosynthesizing plants.
Yep, I have. They have a combination of crops that don't require sun to grow, so like different kind of fungi and lichen and stuff like that that's edible. And also they have certain areas out in the fields that have like essentially drift globes, but sunlight drift globes. so that they can still grow crops and not have to import it from the neighboring.
They've got sun lamps.
Yeah, I've got solutions for everything, my dude,
Nice.
in this particular world. Because at one point, this country was not encased by night, and there's a reason for that, is that there is maybe possibly something sleeping beneath the surface that needs to stay asleep. So that might be why the bubble is important. We don't know, maybe. And so this party has been put together by the leaders of this country, the Kaligo Shire. They're a council of arc druids. Who've said, okay, you all have been chosen for your very specific skill sets. We need you to go to the other druidic temples in the other regions and see what the F is going on, because this magic should not be failing. Why is this failing? All of the druidic communities in each country around the world, in each region, are supposed to be maintaining this barrier, helping us maintain this barrier, because it is imperative. The world will end if this goes away. So go find out and fix it. And that is essentially the premise. And they have left that region and have entered the neighboring country of Southmore, which is essentially undead Western Deadlands. So a lot of the populace is sentient undead. And they have started to see previews of the Big Bad, also known as the Festering. So these horrible creatures that are made of ash and fire and death, and they kill everything around them. So very exciting.
Very clear bad guy. Sometimes the bad guys have a little bit of morals. And you're like, is it morally right to kill this bad guy, or should we try and redeem the bad guy?
They've seen the minions of the Big Bad.
Other times you get a bad guy that's like, there's no redeeming this thing.
The minions of the Big Bads, essentially the monstrous destruction of creatures that have not been seen for several years, and prior to that had never been seen before. And so now that they are back, it is definitely a thing. So. They're going to have to contend with where this is coming from. They did get to see a preview of the Big Bad. They got to see them basically riding like a winged stag of fire, essentially, controlling all of the monsters from above.
And is
why are druids the worst? They're not. They're the best. Shut up. Shut up, Rackham. Nobody asked you.
So in this world, did you spend a lot of time like world building it before you started? Like, did you do it on stream, or was it just all out of your head?
No, all myself. I basically locked myself in my little bubble and did world building. It actually, the idea came to me in a dream, and I was like, I have to write this down, and it just kind of evolved from there.
And then evolved it from there. And you had it pretty solid before you started, or were you just like, I'll start it and we'll work out the details as we go?
I had it pretty solid before it started. The only thing I need to really flesh out now are like the maps for the different major cities that they'll be going to, and the druidic temple, aka the dungeon they have to go to next. So that'll be very interesting, because they are going.
This is the first time being in this world at all? First time running a game in this world? And is it something that you imagine, like, do you like to finish a campaign and then come up with a completely new world, new things for the next campaign, or do you have like a world where you'll kind of sort of Marvel Cinematic Universe style, where there's like, now let's tell a story of what's going on over here?
Depends on if they succeed or not. I think I would probably run more things in this universe, just because it's been so much fun to work with, and it's been really fun to continue to flesh it out as I run them through everything. I think I would definitely do it again. I've actually been toying with the idea of writing a source book for Miss Lost, so nice. I might actually do that, because I think other people would enjoy it too.
Yeah,
I think it would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think I like to definitely run all of my stuff goes in the same world, like, because it's a lot less work for me to homebrew an entire world every time, and you can flesh out a lot more, because like one campaign might be heavily focused on like the gods and like the history of the gods, and so you really get an opportunity to flesh those out. And others might be to do with like plane hopping within the inner planes and the elemental planes, and you go, okay, well, I'll flesh out my elemental planes, I guess. And then
time to make this now.
And some of these, some campaign ends up being all about like wild magic, and see like, well, how does magic actually work? Let's think about the fundamentals of how the magic system works.
Oh gosh,
forces you to flesh it out a bit.
Yeah, every time they ask me questions about the gods or cultures of where they're at or what to expect, I'm just like, oh god, I have to write this now. I never expected to learn so much about salt mines in my life.
It's one of the best things about being a DM is just thinking about who the FBI agent or whatever is on the other side of like looking at your search history and going, I don't know. They might be making a bomb, but they also might be like, they might be planning a mass murder suicide cult, because they definitely have done a lot of research into cults. And then
my FBI agent is so tired of my shit.
They're like, what? He look at him, real time. He's gone from researching how long does it take a body to decompose to talking about how does a windmill work. You know, why is he looking up windmills? What is happening now? Why is he looking up salt planes? you research all sorts of crazy shit and just being like, how would it work?
Literally, my search history was already completely screwed, because as an artist, when you need to look up reference, like if you have to draw like somebody injured or something gross or a monster or something like that, you have to look. Your FBI guy must be confused. He must be. He must be like, what does this lady do with her life that she's looking up like burn injuries or scars and things like that, so that I can learn how to paint those things on characters and stuff like that. What does it look like when
an eyeball has been cooked?
Listen, don't stop. But you're right, literally. Like, what does it look like when this happens, or what does it look like when somebody gets their head bashed in? Like, how do I draw this? How do I paint this? Artists hands down have the weirdest search histories while you're looking for reference. Like, especially if you're like, hands and feet, I think we can all agree, hands and feet are the hardest things to draw. For anybody who has ever drawn anything, hands and feet are difficult. So when you're looking up pictures of feet, you start to wonder what other people might think of the fact that you have to look up what feet look like so you can draw them correctly.
You're like, but feet crushing melon.
No.
And then you're like, I shouldn't have searched this. I'll just get
Alexa, show me pictures of cooked flesh.
I love the idea that you've now triggered a bunch of Alexas from anybody listening. And now you're fucking with everybody else's search history too.
Yes, deal with it.
Alexa, play Rick Astley, Never Gonna Give You Up.
Oh wait, I don't have you on my speakers. I'm fine.
What the hell were we even talking about? I don't know.
I don't even know anymore. But yeah, looking up stuff for homebrew is crazy.
So your Mistlost is Mistlost the name of the country, the name of the campaign, the name of the.
It's the name of the campaign. So the world they're on, super original, is Terra, Terra, because I couldn't think of anything else at the time, and I was like, it sounds nice. And everything else has like really intricate, interesting names that are not boring like that. But
how do you go about naming things? Because naming can be quite a difficult thing for an artist. Being like, oh god, once I named it, it's locked in.
Well, I already knew the starting area was going to be the Vale of Night, because that was what I had dreamed about. And so I had a starting point, and I was like, well, where would it be located? Okay, it's in the center of the landmass that makes up what is known of this planet. So there's room for other countries to be there, other continents to be there. And I was like, okay, if it's in the center, let's draw a map. So I drew the map and named everything after I drew the map.
Right.
So I decided on what it looked like visually first before I named everything. And then from there, I like to use the fantasy name generator, and I also look up like words in other languages, and I will just mash stuff together to come up with different things, so that it's not actually from a given like source.
I start by putting all of the fantasy languages. I give them a real world equivalent, to keep some consistency in the language, the sounds of the language. So like Elvish is based on Welsh in my worlds, and Sylvan is based on French, and Dwarvish is based on German, and Giant is based on Dutch, and things like that. And so if I'm naming something in Elvish, if I'm naming an Elvish town or an Elvish city or an Elvish whatever, I'll think, okay, what was the purpose? And I'll think about the history of how things are named in the real world. Like, usually they're named after a geographical thing, an element of the village, or like the purpose of the village. Like it was a stopover and whatever. And so I'll type that into a Google Translate, and I'll be like, what's the Welsh for gold mine? Because it's an Elvish gold mine. And I'll be like, what's the Welsh for gold mine? Oh, it's this. And then I'll take that word and I'll just kind of mush it together a bit, to take out a couple of letters, put in a couple of other letters, but keep it relatively same so that it sounds consistent, so it sounds like Elvish. But yeah, otherwise it's just button mashing. if I don't have the time for doing all of that, I'll just be like JEFB Jeffbara.
This works. My country's name is Chowder. Don't ask me why, it just is. I couldn't think of anything else at the time. No,
Chowder,
that's not actually
silent P.
Chowder,
because fantasy.
And if you want to see the map, I can send it to you.
I would love to. We'll put it up here for the edit.
Yeah, feel free. So there is, so the Vale of Night is kind of smack dab in the middle of everything, and then the country immediately to the south is just called Southmore, and that is where my players are right now, because one of my players was wonderful enough and unknowingly chose that as where her character was from, and I was like, excellent, because this is where I was going to send you from the start.
That's cool.
So the point is to go to all of the different countries, and the different countries are named, some of them are named for like historical figures, some of them are named for particular landmarks. Like the country that takes up the eastern side of the continent is called the Amaria Wilds, and that is named after the Amaria the forests that take it over, which were originally named after like a legendary elf who once ruled there many years ago. So there's a lot of that. And Elysia is just,
when you came up with the idea for the campaign, was it like, this is going to be kind of the plot and the campaign regardless of who they create, and then you have to come up with a way for it to be like, why are they sending these particular people? Like, why this party? Or does that not really factor into your decisions, and it's like, you're an adventuring party, they just picked anybody?
So I let them know ahead of time. I was like, regardless of where you choose to be from, if you're from the Vale or if you're from outside of the Vale for whatever your reasons might be, that you have relocated to this very secluded country that doesn't get a lot of visitors, all of that is fine, but what you need to know is that you are living there now and you are part of that society now. So think about what your role is in this place, because in the Vale of Night, it's very ideal. It's very Star Trek in that there's virtually, like, there are people who monetarily are poor, but they have resources and work together as a community to make sure that nobody goes hungry, that everybody has a roof over their head, stuff like that. So everybody in this society has a role and a purpose, whether they have a family or not, whether they have money or not, or a job or not. Everybody has some kind of role to fill to ensure that everybody who lives there, because their population is so small, is able to live and work and contribute to everybody's life in the Vale. And that applies to all the outlying villages as well as the main city, the capital city. So that is just kind of, I let them know, I was like, this is the kind of society that you will be living in this space. So think about what your role is. And based on that, whatever classes they come up with, whatever abilities they choose, I would work with them if they had any questions on like what's actually useful in the world or what have you, to kind of like build them in a way, help to build them in a way, which I really didn't have to do at all, to ensure that, they fit into the setting a little bit. and also for me to adjust the setting to fit them as well. So it kind of works both ways.
Right, yeah.
And essentially they would just get chosen based on their skill sets because adventurers are not very common in this world.
Right, okay.
So having those skills is what allowed them to be chosen. They've had training of some kind or experience of some kind to allow them to be equipped enough to go out in the world and do this thing in lieu of the Arc Druids who are like, we have to take care of what's happening here and keep this from collapsing.
We've got day-to-day jobs that we need to be doing as Arc Druids. We can't be taking time to go and do this thing. Because that's one of the biggest sort of problems I can find sometimes in like the disparity between either making it a story that's going to happen regardless of the characters, and so the characters can feel superfluous, or like the individual characters they've made don't seem to be chosen for any particular reason, and you go, well, why am I playing this one? Or tying the story to the characters and being like, you're chosen because it was your father that's the big bad guy, and your mentor was the person who was responsible for this thing going wrong in the first place, and you're from this country, so you have to go because, and then tying them to the story, which is much more my style of doing things. But that comes with the problem of, if any of those characters die, you're like, all the players leave the campaign for whatever reason, you go, crap. I kind of set up that they were vital to it, and now they can just leave and somebody else is going to take over it. And then you've got to tie that next character into the story. And that can be real tough. I find myself more in that camp, though, because like I'm just from creating the story in the first place, I can create a world easily enough, but coming up with something that's happening in the world, some kind of story in the world, it's like looking at a blank canvas and going, paint something, and go, what? But if you give me some constrictions and say like, I want you to paint an animal in its forest environment, then I'd be like, okay, I've got like, I know what I'm doing. So I start with the players and I go like, what are your characters? Give me some characters and some backstory. And then I'll look at their backstory and go, oh, there's a theme here that every one of them in their backstories has mentioned undead. So I'll be like, okay, we're definitely going to be exploring some undead in this campaign. And then I'll think, oh, one of them mentioned that their house was burnt down by orcs and they want revenge or whatever. So I'll be like, okay, now I can tie that in. And if I tie this into this, and then suddenly a big bad evil guy kind of pops into my head, and I go, oh, that would work because it would tie all of their backstories together. And so then I can come up with a story which also makes them feel like these guys in particular, like nobody else could be going on this quest. It's specific to these guys because of their stories and stuff. And then I just have to deal with like putting them in dangerous enough situations that they feel like they're in danger without actually a risk of TPK, because then I'm like, well, that's the story gone.
Oops.
Yeah.
It's important. It is a very tricky balance. For me, I find the key is anybody could finish the job. In the beginning, it needs to feel like it's really just them, but ultimately it's as long as the thing gets done in some way. That way, if a character dies, which is never my goal, I know there's people out there who are like, oh, well, if the dice decide, the dice decide. I don't like that. I don't. And even if a player consents to character death, which I think is something everybody should do in a campaign, is determine whether or not their players consent to their characters dying. Because there are so many different ways that there can be consequences to their actions without them dying. But that is a whole other soapbox, which I'm happy to get on later. Is that if something happens or their character is no longer able to continue for whatever reason or another, is to, make sure that even though it feels special for them to go through this now and that it's connected to their story now, that it is adaptable enough and broad enough that other people can still jump in and do that, and continue, take the torch and carry it forward. It's so difficult.
Yeah, it makes sense to be like, you guys have heard about the quest because of your tie to it, and like you've heard about the world ending, whatever it's going to be, big bad evil guy level 20 thing, and you know that it's coming, and you were chosen, as it were, you're the chosen ones to start the ball rolling in getting this thing fixed. But hopefully by the time that they die or characters get reintroduced or whatever, the rest of the party is still like, we're kind of on this mission, this path to fixing this problem for the world, and they're accruing allies, they're accruing NPCs that now know about the quest, and so it can the later level it gets, the more it's kind of like, this is an inevitable outcome that the world is now aware of because of you guys at the beginning, and so now other people can join in, and they don't have a personal tie to the mission necessarily, but they have a personal tie to not dying, and the world is going to end if we don't succeed.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Absolutely.
So this is on a Wednesday, you said?
Wednesdays, 8:00 Eastern Standard Time. Most Wednesdays. We take a break like every 3 weeks or so.
And what else do we do on other days?
So right now, that is the only thing that is running on my channel. Dungeons and Dinglings is currently on an indefinite hiatus, and we're probably not gonna start that back up again. We've been doing it for 3 years. We all kind of talked about it, and we're a little bit burnt out on it. And lesson learned: having seasons in your in your actual play is key to not burning out. Still love them very much. There's no drama there. We were just like, hey, you know what? I think we all kind of want our Fridays back, don't we? And everybody's like, yeah, kind of. And it's like, okay, I love you guys, but I think we're just going to call it here. Yeah, which is sad, because not finishing the story is a shame. I feel bad. I definitely feel bad, because I know there were a lot of people who followed the Dinglings game and followed my channel because of that game. But when you play a game for 3 years, sometimes it's like, all right, I'm tired. Let's do something else.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Even the Viva guys are coming to that point as well. We had a meeting about the future of the Viva La Diddly campaign. We've been going for about 3 and a bit years. And they were like, we're enjoying this and we're enjoying the characters, but we want to make sure that there is an end in sight at some point. Like we need to schedule like when the end of this campaign is going to be, so that we can look towards future projects and things.
Yeah. So after that happened, because Dinglings just ended a couple of weeks ago, I spoke to the Miss Lost cast, and I was like, hey, so we're coming up on episode 20, which is happening next week. That's going to be a big deal for the folks watching. If you want to get into Miss Lost, now is the best time to do it. And then after episode 20, we're going to get into an episode. Well, it's not going to be episodic. I mean, obviously, there's episodes, but there's going to be seasons. And I'll be releasing more soon on how many episodes to expect per season, how long of a break in between, and stuff like that. I'm still working that out with the cast, scheduling wise. So more on that soon.
What about the
hey,
the future?
Sharmy, that's one of my players.
What's up, Sharmy? How's it going? Come watch episode 20 of Mist Lost. Yeah.
Yes.
So tell me about the future of the Mandii as like a brand. What are your sort of blue sky ideas of what you want to achieve? Is there any particular projects that you'd love to work on eventually? Anybody you'd love to work with?
Oh gosh. I mean, if we're shooting for the stars here, I'd love to work with Dimension 20 at some point. I think that would be really fun. Yeah. I'd love to do more stuff with you. That would be fun. Except time zones are a thing, and that sucks.
Whereabouts are you?
I definitely have. I'm in Tampa. I'm in the East Coast of the United States.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Florida,
New Zealand to East Coast is not the easiest of time zones.
No, it's really not. But yeah, there's a lot of folks I'd really love to work with. I'd love to do something with No Man someday. I think that would be amazing. I really enjoyed their work a lot. I was really grateful to meet Gnome at Gen Con and get to know them a little bit, and they invited me on their channel. I think next week is it? Next week. I'll have to tune in for that.
Yeah, we're doing the Quiet Year. Have you played that one?
Oh yes, I've listened to it played. I think when they did it on the Adventure Zone, right? The Quiet Year. They did a little bit of the Quiet Year, and then they moved into a different system.
I'm not sure. I'm working my way through the Adventure Zone at the moment. I listened to the first season as it was coming out, and really freaking loved it. Kind of fell off during
balance
the
is very good
between that and the next one. And then more recently, I went back and was like, oh, I'm going to re-listen to Balance. And I re-listened to it. And then once that ended, I just continued listening to the rest of it. And I'm up to, to the one that Travis is running. I can't remember the name of the arc now.
Is it the school one?
Yeah, the schools of heroes and villains and stuff. So I'm working my way through it. So I don't think I've gotten to A Quiet Year yet, but I've played A Quiet Year twice, and I thought it was really fun. It's like a really fun system for something that you can then take and put into like a world building system. Like the whole point, you're making a map of a particular village or a town or something, and every card from a deck of cards is another week in this year, and like events that are happening on adding to the map and fleshing out who the people of the village is and stuff. And then at the end of that, you've got a whole year of history of this particular settlement that you can then just be like, sweet, put that in a D&D game.
There it is, boom.
I thought about that when I was first starting out doing D&D on stream, and I was like, how am I going to make this a career? I thought at the time I was like, an actual play is inevitable. And it turns out now I'm not actually doing the actual plays on my channel other than the Twitch Tales interactive one. But I thought when I was starting, I was like, I'll probably do like a bunch of like world building games, like A Quiet Year and other ones that can like flesh out factions and flesh out towns and stuff like that, and create the world through those games, and then eventually start playing a D&D game in that world.
Ooh,
which
that sounds
is still
fun.
A possibility for the future for me, but
yeah, absolutely.
At the moment, the things that I'm doing are keeping me busy enough anyway.
But yeah, there's a lot of people I'd love to work with. The list is long, but you guys are the ones I think of first, probably. I'm already having so much fun working with Mandii, and I definitely plan on doing more with them moving forward in the future. But
and when are the Mandii streams?
Oh gosh, so we have a D&D game Mondays 9:00 Eastern Standard Time, Tuesdays, which is Blades in the Dark, 9:00 Eastern Standard Time. Fridays 9:00 Eastern Standard Time for Grim Domains, which is a whole lot of fun. Actually, today and right now, we're doing a charity stream for Save the Children for World Literacy Day and for combating child illiteracy. So we're doing that. We're raising money for that today. I will be in the game that's happening at 9:00 Eastern Standard Time tonight for that. So cool. Yeah, and I think that Sundays they have Icewind Dale game. I forget what time that is. Sorry, I'm not a DM on the channel. I'm just a player. Yeah. But yeah, I'm hoping to run something for them soon. That's a secret project I'm working on. And just thinking about what else I might be able to do on my own channel. I think I might do world building streams.
World building stuff, yeah. And you mentioned
and I want to do
maybe one day wanting to do a module, a campaign setting book for your world.
For Miss Lost, yeah. And
would you consider doing like a Kickstarter for that or something? Would that be like a crowdfunding?
Oh God, I don't know. I think I'd wanna finish the book first. Thankfully, I have experience in doing like book layouts and stuff like that. I've done some of that for Total Party Kill games already. Oh, nice. For writing and for book layout design. So I think I would. I went to school for graphic and web design, so I already kind of knew how to do stuff like that.
That certainly helps.
And I'm friends with the owners of TPK Games, so it was just kind of like a natural connection at that point, at that time. And other than that, yeah, I think I want to write the book first, and then if I can finish it, I think would be a good time to look into like kickstarting it.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
To get publishing costs and stuff.
That
makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, world building streams, and I've been toying with the idea of doing a Twitch Plays Baldur's Gate 3. So I kind of want chat to drive a playthrough for me of Baldur's Gate 3 and save that for stream. I'm sure it will be hilarious and terrible and amazing all at the same time, because my chat is very chaotic. So I think it would be very fun.
Nice. So before we get into massive Baldur's Gate 3 talk, which is inevitable, I just want to remind people in the chat that you can ask questions of me and Mandii by redeeming the question redemptions on my channel, just for 50 copper pieces. You should have that by now if you've been watching the stream so far. You can redeem your question just that way. If I miss it in the chat, I'll get to it at the end. There's a little time at the end of the stream for asking your questions, so make sure to be getting them in. So Baldur's Gate 3. let's discuss. So
I've not beat it yet, so I'll tell you that I'm still in Act 1.
I'm still in Act 1. So we can't be spoiling the game for each other because neither of us have seen that much of it. So they did the annoying thing of releasing it during Gen Con when all the nerds were too busy to actually play. Everybody were like, what the fuck? I know a guy who used hotel Wi-Fi to download it, and it took like a day and a half. It took like 29 hours to download 100 and something gigabytes.
Oh my god.
Yeah, insane. I downloaded it just when I got home. But I got home and was straight into prep for the next Viva shooting and the next this and that and the other, and so I just couldn't play it for a good like 2 or 3 weeks after it had been released, and then I finally got the chance to open it. And when I did, there'd been so much hype about it. There'd been so much like, this is the best game ever, and this is the best Dungeons and Dragons game, and this is the best blah blah blah, and you're gonna love it, you're gonna love it, you're gonna love it. That I opened it and was like, it's just. I was like, it's just
wow.
it's just Divinity Original Sin 2. I enjoyed it and I enjoyed the story of it, but I was just really put off by the video gamey element of it. I'm much more of a TTRPG player than I am a video gamer, and so all of the things that I've been told since that like video gamers love, like checking every box and every crate and looting every person and walking into a room and having to look at all the highlightable things and making sure to be plucking all of those flowers so that you can be crafting the things, and it was just tedious and boring and didn't feel like D&D. I just wanted a single role to be like, investigate the room, make an investigation check, and based on what you get, here's the loot that you pick up from the room. Yeah, and there was like things like controlling every member of the party. I'm like, that's not how D&D. I control my character in D&D. Have the AI control my party. Like they're the other players at the table. Have them controlled by them. So there were just things like that. That just the minor issues that were different between the game and the TTRPG. Like there's no dodge action. There's no ready action. Being able to shove people or take a healing potion as a bonus action. Those things are like, oh, that's not how it plays. But sure, I was kind of getting used to those. And I was getting annoyed with it to the point where I realized I'm not having fun with this. And why is it that I'm not having fun? And so I stopped playing it for a bit, and I thought, it's because I was playing it like a video game. I'm just gonna go to hell with picking things up and like accruing as much loot as I can. And yes, I might not pick up the because the thing is, it incentivizes picking up like looking in that basket and looking in that box, because the loot in those boxes makes no sense. Like, oh, there's some gloves of missile snaring in this barrel over here. Why? I don't know,
Why?
But it's there. So instead I was just like, I'm going to start a new run. And just the other night I started a new run. I'm only 2 hours in, but I was like, I'm just going to fully lean into roleplay. I'm going to play
Perfect.
I'm just going to do only the things that my character would do in the moment that my character would do them. And if my character wouldn't look in that barrel, I'm not going to look in the barrel. And I'm playing it that way, and I'm having a lot more fun with it. I'm like, okay, this is going to be much more enjoyable.
Listen, the thing you need to know is that Baldur's Gate 3 is hands down the best dating sim on the internet. It's the best dating sim of all time. That's all you need to know. That's it.
Yeah, everybody talks about how horny it is and how sexy it is and stuff. I've had to turn off the nudity option for streaming it, obviously. Yeah. So I've yet to see all of the different penis options in character creation.
Listen, it's that's the short end from this. Oh, listen, I love romance. I love Dragon Age. Don't talk shit on Dragon Age in chat. I will block you. I love Dragon Age. I love Mass Effect. I love all of those games. I'm not actually like a dating sim fan, but if it's an RPG game, like a fantasy setting game, and you can romance the characters, sign me up.
I've yet to get to any point of romancing any of the characters. Maybe because of the choices I was making. The first guy I was playing was like a gruff like soldier, but dragonborn, and he wasn't like picking any of the charming options. But this time through, I'm playing a halfling bard, and I did start picking some of the ones. One of the early options with Shadowheart, where it was like getting to know her and like respecting her boundaries and stuff. And it was like Shadowheart approves. I was like, oh, this might be unlocking what people have been talking about with the whole dating sim situation.
Yep. Oh yeah. I mean, over time, if you don't do things to like piss everybody off every time you make a choice, like inevitably the entire party is gonna try to romance you, and it's great.
Awesome.
It's great. I love it. It might be because I'm playing a bard in my main playthrough.
Right.
That might be why. A very beautiful bard based on my Dungeons & Dingalings character from before I was the GM. And I was like, she's so beautiful. How could I not have her be my character in this game. And so everybody's in love with me, and it's great.
That's another thing I've
exactly
noticed.
what I want.
Another big trend I've noticed is that people are quite often just making characters that they've played in other games or other D&D games. Like I've a bunch of my mates are messaging me being like, "Oh, I'm playing so and so in my Baldur's Gate game," and making their characters from my games, which is really fun to see them like going off on their own quests. And one of my mates is going like, "Oh, that because I played in a game that kind of fell through for life getting in the way." And he is saying, "Oh, I'm now playing that character in this so that I can continue his story, and I can like flesh out." he says, "I'm playing him so that I can flesh out some of his stories from his younger days, because when he was in my games, he was like an old man." And he goes, "I'm playing him as a younger man now in Baldur's Gate to like give him some stories from his past." I love that. I love that.
That's
about Baldur's
so
Gate,
good.
the fact that it's giving people the ability to get into it. I also think we're going to get a huge boom of people getting into D&D because of Baldur's Gate.
I hope so.
It's
a great gateway drug.
I had an idea for a series that I've started writing and filming, just a series of YouTube shorts that are basically, hey, are you getting into D&D because of Baldur's Gate? Is this your introduction to D&D? Well, here's some things you need to know about the differences between them, and
I like that.
Highlighting a couple of tips and tricks about
that's awesome.
Don't expect to be able to shove as a bonus action unless your GM's cool with that. Things like that.
Yeah.
And here's a thing you can do. You can dodge on your turn.
Here's the thing you can do that you can't do in the game.
Yeah, exactly. And don't worry about looting every single room, because that gets real boring and real tedious in D&D, whereas people might enjoy it in the video games.
Absolutely. And also, here are all these subclasses that don't exist.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's another one.
I was so upset that I couldn't be a glamour bard. I was very upset at that.
Right, yeah, glamour bard's
come on, that's such a faves. That's like the natural choice for a bard, and it's not in the game yet. TM, I don't know. It better be at some point, because glamour bard is clearly the best bard.
There's a bunch of mods for the game as well already. Like there's a bunch of mods where you can change it to be a little more what you're looking for. Like they add in the dodge action, and they add in this and that and the other. And there's like somebody's made an artificer class that you can now play as and stuff. And a lot of them early days of the game, the full release anyway. It's the mods are going to be janky and full of glitches and bugs and stuff. But over time, just like with Skyrim, we can expect to see hundreds of thousands of mods for this game, and like you can make the game exactly what you want it to be, which I'm excited.
They're coming out with official mod support too. I saw.
I'm hopeful for that, because I've tried downloading a couple of them. But there is a mod called Search the Room that does exactly what my biggest gripe about the thing was.
Of course, you
press a button. Yeah, you press a button and it gives you an investigation check or something, and it's like, all right, it highlights the couple of items that have actually got something of value inside of them, and not like, oh, here's a rotten tomato. Here's nothing. Here's nothing. Here's another rotten tomato. Like, oh, here's 30 gold. Instead, this model is just like, it takes the value of what's inside it and it only highlights it if it's above a certain value or whatever. So I was like, oh, perfect. And then I could not get that mod to work. So
oh gosh,
couldn't get any of the mods to work. So I'm hopeful that the mod support is actually going to come out soon.
Yeah, I can't wait. And honestly, I want to try the Artificer mod that's out, because of all the memes that have been generated for it, of just like people walking in and like shooting a place up. That's exactly.
I'm keen to just play more of the game, just from the amount of content that there is about the game, and I'm like, it's inevitable that stuff's going to get spoiled left and right, just through entering the zeitgeist and the public eye.
I spoiled so much for myself already. Like I just pretend I don't see it and keep playing. It's
like
fine.
Pretty much every D&D creator that I follow on YouTube. They're coming up in the feed. Things you can learn from Baldur's Gate to apply to your D&D games and stuff like this. And I'm like, I really want to click on that and watch the video, but I also don't want to spoil anything about the game for myself yet.
Yeah, I ruined some things for myself because I made the mistake of liking a lot of like edits of Asterion like voice lines and stuff, just because I love a sassy little evil vampire twink. I just do. I can't help it. I'm weak. I love the white-haired anime boy, and I'm not ashamed of it. And now that I've done that, I get all the videos about Asterion. And now I'm like getting spoilers about Asterion's story and stuff like that. And it's like, oh, well, now I know this is something that I'm gonna have to deal with.
Yeah.
Not that I'm romancing him in this playthrough, but yikes. Asterion is the best. Listen, I just love a character that talks like this, darling. It's just so much fun. My name is Gustarion, honk. Is that your sandwich? Not anymore.
From the romancy stuff that you know of the game, does it get to a point where if you romance one, the others are like cut off from being romanced? Or they get jealous?
Some of them are, some of them aren't. Most of them are, some of them aren't. So there are some that will embrace some of them are poly and they're okay with it, and others are just like, nah. Like if you very early in the game, very typical, if you get any level of approval from Lae'zel, she's like, hey, you wanna and if you sleep with anyone, this is what I was told, I don't know if it's true, chat, tell me if I'm wrong, but I was told that if you sleep with anyone, even if you don't initiate a full romance with them, you cannot romance Karlach. And that sucks.
Pure and virginal.
And it's like, no!
I only want somebody who's not as untainted.
But I didn't know she existed when I did that. It's wrong. Okay, good. I'm glad that I'm wrong. I'm very glad that the person who told me that was wrong. I'm so glad to know that I got the wrong information. Thank you. Because I'm like, but I love Karlach. She's like the best.
Do you have a
sweet bean?
Do you have you say you're playing Bard in that one? Do you have like a go-to class in D&D that you do hover towards usually?
So
somebody goes, "Hey, you're gonna be in this one shot." Do you go like, I guess I'm gonna play a Bard"?
I like to switch it up a lot, but the class I've played the most at this point is Druid.
Druid. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What appeals to you about Druid?
I don't know. I love being able to turn into animals and beat the crap out of people.
I've talked about this with somebody else recently. I can't remember who, but like we were talking about like the different classes that like could be in the game if they wanted to add another class, like what's missing. And somebody said like a dedicated shapeshifter, where their entire class is about shapeshifting, because druids have the shapeshifting, but they can only turn into beasts, and they've got like spellcasting as well and all this stuff. And I kind of was agreeing. Like I do think that there is an element of like especially if you're moon druid, but I feel like even moon druids are a little limited in their shapeshifting abilities. They feel like they can buff basically the animal becomes just temporary hit points at a certain point with druids, but having a class that was like a dedicated werewolf class or something, or like just a shapeshifter class that can alter self at will or whatever.
I think that would be fun. I have they're not completed. I probably should finish them so that I can put them up on like DM's Guild or something, but I have blood classes for each subclass, and the one for the druid allows you to turn into monsters instead of beasts.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Blood classes, that's cool. So that would be a subclass for each of the classes that exist. You would take this path of the blood, whatever.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yep.
How long have you been working on those? How long have those been percolating?
I started them a couple of years ago, and they've just been sitting in the folder, but they're mostly done. I just have to finish them. An Animorph class? Oh, God. I'm sure that's a thing somewhere.
What are some of the other examples? Like, what's a wizard one?
So the wizard one... Hold on, I'll pull up the list.
Because some of them lend themselves pretty well to, like, weird, like Warlock is like obvious.
Oh no, is it not in my Discord server? I don't know what the notes are. It's somewhere in here.
Deleted.
This is where I think I have it on my Notion. Let me open up Notion. It's somewhere in here, but there's I have a couple of... God, why are you doing this to me today? Maybe it is my internet. But circle of, I think it's lifeblood. Subclasses.
Was this for a particular thing? Like you were designing these for a world you were building at the time, or was it just like something that you just needed out of your head?
So they were just like, I was like, how cool would it be if there was a blood-oriented subclass? Like, obviously there's a blood cleric somewhere. So Artificer is Bloodsmith, Barbarian is Path of the Bloody Fury, the Bard is the Sanguine College, Cleric is Bloodshed Domain, the Druid Circle is Circle of Lifeblood, so it's got like healing aspects as well as turning into monsters.
Nice.
You said Wizard. I built this for a homebrew thing that I was working on that kind of fell through, which is why I haven't finished them, but I might just make it world agnostic, is School of the Sangluna, which is like a cult that's part of the setting.
And like different from necromancy, like still working on using people's blood, like bloodbender.
Yeah, so there would be like different blood-oriented abilities and spells for each subclass that would have like the spells. So it would be like a new magic school as well. Dang, I went really complicated with it. That's probably why I haven't finished it yet. That's why I was like, I have all this stuff written out, but I haven't quite finished it or polished it up yet. But yeah,
how do you usually tackle homebrew? Do you like to go with subclasses? Do you like to homebrew items, spells, or do you not do a lot of homebrew?
I like to do a lot of items. Homebrew items are probably my favorite thing to do. Homebrew monsters, like I'll mash up different stat blocks and turn it into something that is my own. Mostly items I think are, for almost all all the settings I've done in 5e, whether it's been my own or through other things, I always homebrew items. That is like my number one thing to do.
Items are a lot of fun. Items are a lot of fun. I do homebrew a lot of items myself as well. And then you end up having to put those characters into D&D Beyond and go, now I need to make all of these items as actual like D&D Beyond items, so that they can put them on their character sheet and read what they actually do.
Yeah.
Do you put stuff on DM's Guild? Like, is that?
So the only thing that is, I do not have a Patreon, no. The only thing that is up on DM's Guild that is related to me is I co-wrote and did the cover art for a Warlock Pact, Pact of the Celestial Fox. So I did the art for the fox, and I helped the person who wrote it like tweak it and make it make more sense. So I'm a co-writer on that. So that's on there. So if you look up Celestial Fox, you'll find it pretty easily. It's only like $2, so check it out if you want. I just use the credits to buy more stuff on DM's Guild, really.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
But yeah, no, I don't normally. I love improv, and I think that's a big reason why I haven't finished some of the things that I've written, is because I'll start it off just enough to work off of it, and then I will improv the rest. And then worry about writing it down later.
Yeah, that's the main thing when you do that. You get to the end of the session and forget to stop and take notes, and then you pack away, and then something else gets in the way, and then it comes to the next session of that campaign, and you're like, oh no! What did I say that thing did? What did I say that the abilities of this monster was? You have to write these things down.
What was the accent of this NPC that I just made up on the spot?
Yeah.
Shit. How do I talk like this person again? That I
Which
had
is fine
3 weeks ago, and now
it's
back.
private game. Yeah, private game. No worries. Yeah. Nobody's gonna remember. Public game. Everybody's gonna pick you up on. That wasn't that.
Yeah, that's happened to me before. I've been like, oops, sorry, I forgot to write notes on this. But thankfully my community is very forgiving, and so are my players. But I'm kind of at the point where I have to watch my own VODs back, which I hate doing.
Right, yeah.
I like watching VODs back of games that I play in so that I can make sure my notes are okay. But as a DM, like watching myself DM, I'm just like, no. I should be numb to it. I mostly am. Like it's I don't love listening to myself.
My friend calls it taking 1 point of psychic damage when he has to listen to himself.
Yeah, I'm kind of used to it, but I definitely don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy it at all.
When you're making a homebrew item, and it comes to like wondrous item, rare, requires attunement. Like, how do you pick the rarity level? Do you do that first before you then make the item, or do you make the item whatever you want and then you think about it and go, what does this feel like?
It's the latter. I make the item whatever I want, or whatever I think is situational to where they're going to be and where they might find it. I've definitely made really dope items that my players have just been unable to find, and I'm like,
I've been there.
Sucks to be you. I'm just gonna use it in another campaign. Bye. But like I like to make sentient items as well. That's one of my favorite things. I had a sentient item that was the sword of the sword of misconception. And it would emotionally not like control the wielder, but would impose its emotions, because it was its only way of communicating, by being like, I'm angry, or I want this, or you need to go this way, or I really think you should stop, or something like that, or like anxiety or whatever. And it also had a gem that looked like an eye in the like the guard of the sword. And words, what are words? And it had a certain amount of space in which it could see. And if it saw a book of any kind, especially a magical one, it would drag you. Because you can't not wield it, and if you don't use it for a certain amount of time, it gets angry at you. Because it's like, hello, we need to fight. Why are you not using me in this fight? Hello,
I'm here to help. Sword. Hit me against something.
Exactly, and would drag the wielder however far it needed to go, however far you need to go to get to that book, and then with some kind of inbuilt like telekinetic power, have the book float up in front of the eye, scan all the pages really quickly, and then drop the book.
Like Johnny Five.
Yep, just a complete bibliophile sword. And
so super intelligent.
It has very intelligent.
Yeah.
And knows a lot, but you have to befriend it in order to share the knowledge.
To get any of that knowledge. That's smart. I like that. Give me the book. Consume.
You have to raise your approval rating with the sword in order to and once you become friends with the sword, it will level up with you.
Oh, that's cool.
So I like get more abilities.
That's one of my favorite things to do is like homebrew and items that have unlockable features that level up with you, because then you don't need to worry about like giving the players new items and more powerful items every turn, every dungeon and stuff. It's just like give them something that they can do. Like it also gives you like mini quests that they can go on to unlock the item further, and things that they can do, side quests and missions and stuff. Gives them a focus to be like, I need to fix this. I need to do the thing that I need to do to fix this item up, to make it
reforge it, or absolutely.
Especially taking an item, so in the Viva game, I took the Dwarven Thrower, and it's a +3 throwing hammer, but I gave it to him, and it had none of the abilities. And once he's attuned to it, it gets the returning property. And once he's done something else to attune to it, and again it gets the +1, and then he does it again, and it's a +2, then it's a +3, and that's basically just the item at that point. Like the magic item, but he can go even further and attune to it again and he basically has to kill all the six types of giant, and then take one of their body parts and attune it to the item. And every time he does that, it gets the +1, +2, +3. But then he can take it even further, and it'll get some other extra power. And then I think the next level, spoilers and exclusives for everybody. I think the next level of the sword, the hammer from memory, is that he can then imbue it with an energy of one of the types of giants that he's attuned it to. So like if he's killed a fire giant or a frost giant and attuned it to the hammer, then he can turn on 1d4 frost damage with added frost damage or added fire damage and stuff. So I think that's and then the last power is something even better that I'm not going to spoil. But yeah, if he kills all 6 giants, all 6 of the types of true giant, and attunes all 6 types to his hammer, he unlocks it to be like this legendary hammer by the end of it, and it gives him like this thing of like, I've got this, and I'm going to use this. This is my primary weapon for the entire campaign. Gives a little bit of through line to not only the characters but the weapons and stuff as well.
Yeah, I think that can be more fun than waiting until you find another weapon to, if you have equipment that you can grow with. I think that's way more narratively interesting than just, I found this hammer, I found a different hammer, we went into this dragon's lair and fought the dragon, and it just happened to be sitting there on a pile of gold, and I got lucky. Like,
I got lucky in what you chose for us, and also like you don't have to worry about like, I've only got 3 attunement slots and I've got 4 different weapons. One of them is a +3 against giants. One of them is a fire sword, and one of them is this, and one of them is that. So at anyone,
what
which
if it's
can
all
be fun
one thing?
sometimes. Yeah, which can sometimes be fun to be like forcing them to make a decision of like, what are you going to be fighting today? And do you want to take some? Do you have the time? Like, you're being chased down, or the end of the world is nigh. Do you have the time to take a short rest to reattune to this one instead? And sometimes it can be fun to give them those sort of those issues, but otherwise it's just like no. Just into one. So awesome. Spells, feats. You ever homebrew those?
I've never homebrewed feats. I think that could be fun. I feel like there's so many that
I've not done a lot of feats. There are a lot of feats already. But one that I did do on the behest of a player was he wanted to be a whipmaster. He wanted to be like a Indiana Jones type. And so I just made a whipmaster feat where it's like it increases the damage of a whip from a d4 to a d6 to make it usable. And then it gave him like an ability of like, if you anytime you hit, you can forego the damage to instead knock them prone. So like if it's a creature that requires legs, you can whip around the legs and whip them over.
I love that.
And then also like he can Indiana Jones like he can support his weight on a whip, so he can like whip as long as there's something to whip onto, like a tree branch or something, he can like swing. And so I just gave him a couple of little things. So that was a fun one to homebrew, and I think I homebrewed something else as well. But yeah, feats I've only done one or two of. They don't tend to be what I gravitate towards.
Spells, the only homebrew I've done spell-wise is adjusting an existing spell to suit a character more. So one of my, here talking about Miss Lost again, the bard in the party, the bard in the party, she is her character is cursed or blessed, or however you want to determine it, with the ability to see dead people. She sees spirits. And her job as a priestess is to, help the dead, help them settle, help them rest, and that kind of thing. So we've reflavored all of her bard spells to be like spirit oriented, and that the way that her spells look are like that, or some of her abilities are aided by the spirits who have been helped by her or who travel with the party. And so like certain things I'll adjust like flavor wise, and in some cases also damage wise, in terms of having it be themed around the spirits rather than the actual spell itself, themed around her character. That's stuff like that I'll do.
I'll definitely like flavor spells however the hell we want them to. Like if it's a druid casting cure wounds versus if it's a cleric casting cure wounds, the spells will look different, and but usually they'll just be whatever it is. The way that I handle things, like if somebody wants to use a spell in a way that the spell shouldn't be used, really, as long as what they're trying to do with the spell isn't encroaching on an existing spell, I'll be like, yeah, you can attempt it, but like I'll have you roll a spellcasting check to see if you can manipulate, if your abilities with your own spells are good enough that you can manipulate it to be something that it's not. Like if they wanted to use Firebolt to to like just hold it in their hand and illuminate their passage, like, well, Firebolt is very much like a damaging bolt of fire, and what you're trying to do is an existing spell called Produce Flame. So maybe not, but like I might still just like roll it and see. Yeah. Because I don't like to outright say no.
What would you make that, like an Arcana check to see if you can produce that effect that you want by twisting the spell?
It's usually the spellcasting check, because I don't want to mess with people who are like very good at spellcasting, like bards or whatever, but really bad at intelligence. And by making it an Arcana specifically, I'll be like, you cast spells with your charisma, so I'll make it a charisma check, and like how
a performance check.
Can you? Yeah, basically, I'll be like, how much can you?
Can you twist the song you need into what you want?
Yeah, exactly. to see if you can have this spell work in a slightly different way than it should. All right, well, we're coming up to time, so let's bring out the requests from the audience and see if we've got any questions to answer there. Don't forget that you can ask your questions in the chat, everybody. If you've got a question, anything to do with D&D or Mist Lost or just pretty much anything at all, ask away. We got a question an hour ago from GM Workshop being a troll, saying why are druids the worst?
They're not. They're the best.
Let's see if I can answer this. Let's see if I can answer this earnestly. So when I started my very first time DMing, before I was doing it for a stream or anything, just as a home game, a friend of mine came to me and goes, "I want to play a druid, but I don't really like the fact that like when druids wild shape, they're basically just taking the hit points of the animal." Just stacked on top of their own, and it feels like you're transposing. It feels like you're disappearing and transposing an animal into your place, and then the animal fights till it dies, and then you come back and you were just as it was. And also they don't really have that many abilities and stuff. They don't have high AC and things, and so we talked about the things that he didn't like about it, and we tried homebrewing something, and it was my very first time DMing, so I was really bad at the homebrewing balance nature of it, and he was min-maxing like what he wanted out of this new homebrew class. It just became this unusable mess, essentially. Like really good for an NPC. God. Turns out really good for an NPC. He's currently an NPC in the Twitch Tales campaign that I'm running. But for a playable character, it just wasn't a good balance for the rest of the party and stuff. So I found like that's not a problem with druids. It was a problem with my attempt at fixing the druids by making this. And I think there's merit to it. I think nowadays I might, if I had the time and inclination, I could go back and try and like homebrew it with my knowledge now of much more about the balance of the game. And I think it would be like a really good option for druids as like a maybe I could make it a subclass or something that's even more heavily into the wild shape than the moon druid is, where like you could forego having certain spells. Because one of the things we did was we basically made druids a half caster rather than a full caster, and just buffed up the wild shapes of like every time you wild shape, every few levels in druid, you got to pick an aspect of an animal to apply to all wild shapes. Like if you got to pick kind of like the Battlemaster maneuvers, like you got a selection of them and you got to pick from them every time you level up. And so if you pick like aspect of the the ferocity of the lion, and then you get advantage on all intimidation checks, or like if you pick the bloodthirsty nature of sharks, you get advantage on attacks when your enemy is below half its hit points, or whatever it was. Right. And I came up with a whole list of these things and was like, and you could pick those things and add them to you as you level up. You become like your wild shapes start to affect you a lot more. I think at one point I took like a morphing ability of like every time you wild shape you can choose an aspect of or a movement speed, I think, from one of the other animals that you know, and apply it to this. So you can become a lion who can fly, or you can become a shark who can breathe air, or whatever. And you can change your wild shapes and actually become like more useful over time with them. So I think there's merit to it, and I think it would be fun to revisit it at some point. But yeah, it was all kinds of broken. What is your least favorite class? Is there any class that you like? My least
favorite class. Wow, that's a tough one. I've liked pretty much everything I've played so far. So I have a tough time saying that.
It's likewise. Like I've played
which one?
One of everything at least once.
I think. Well, what have I not played? I've not played Sorcerer. I've not played Artificer. And I think that's it. Yeah. That's it.
And you haven't played them because there's just lack of opportunity
haven't had a chance
to do
yet.
so.
Just haven't had a chance yet, you know. So there's that. Oh, actually, have I played a Paladin? I don't think I've played a Paladin. So Sorcerer, Paladin, and Artificer, I think, are the only ones I haven't played yet.
Fan of Rangers? You're not jumping on the Ranger hate train?
No, I think Rangers can be very useful. I think they get a lot of hate for like kind of no reason, just like how fighters get a lot of hate for no reason. I don't really understand like why people hate it so much. I think all the classes are useful in their own given ways if they're played well. And you know, I think if I don't know. I don't see what's wrong with the ranger. I don't.
No, neither. One of the things that makes D&D work really well as a cooperative group game is that every class is super overpowered in one thing that they can do really well. And it's like that. And it's the same reason that makes D&D not work as a PvP. Like a lot of people want to play PvP with D&D when they get into it and they've been playing for a very short amount of time. They're like, oh, it'd be funny if all our characters fought to the death together and stuff, like who would, you know, battle royale style. And those things rarely work out. Even Critical Role didn't do battle royales too well. Like it was, they were fun chaos-ish, fun chaos, but like not fair, like not fair fights and stuff, because it's not balanced for that. It's designed to be like you're super overpowered, and in a PvP, if you are if you have an advantage, then you are overpowered in that thing, and nobody else can take you out. And
agreed.
And it can snowball really quickly as well. With like I'm leaning into the thing that I'm really good at, which means that I've now got the advantage because I took you out in the first round. So it's not designed that well, but you know, because it's designed for everybody's filling in for their party, the niches of the party, it works really well as a balanced way to make everybody super overpowered with the one thing they can do. The main character of my Twitch Tales game is a ranger, and that's the character that the chat control as a hive mind, and they are super powerful in certain things. they like I gave them an NPC semi-healer, a giant bee companion that can like sting them with an adrenaline sting to give them a bit of hit points back. And I give them that. I give them that just so that like I knew how dangerous it was to have a solo campaign. Essentially, if like you get into one situation where you're paralyzed or knocked out or whatever, and suddenly you're TPK'd, and so I give them.
But
like
Rob,
a
what is his name? What's the little bee's name?
The little bee is a little French bee called Mel. And he's got a little bee here.
Oh my god.
Mel, short for mellifera, which is the Latin for honeybee.
Aww. I love that.
The main character is called Apis. Apis mellifera is the full name for a honeybee. We were leaning into a whole hive mind thing, and so Apis is called Apis Hive. The giant it's like a potbelly pig sized bee that just follows them around, and as I mentioned before, Sylvan is based on French in my world, and she speaks Sylvan, and so she speaks with this sort of buzzing accent, but with this French voice and Mel, and they can speak to her in Sylvan.
I love it.
She's a lot of fun, but she was there for the reason of like keeping them alive in case they went down. But we learned very quickly that rangers are actually super powerful and they can keep themselves alive. And especially when they've taken the +2 archery, they can just stay away from the fight and shoot a bunch of damage. And they took Horizon Walker, so they can imbue their damage with Planar Warrior on top of like a Hunter's Mark. So they can have the +2 archery, Hunter's Mark, Planar Warrior, and just do thousands of damages. It's not as crappy a class as everybody talks about.
Yeah,
if you're using them correctly.
If I had to pick a least favorite, mainly because I enjoy all the classes I've played so far, I think the only one I would say, and I'm only saying that, I'll explain why, is Monk. And the reason for that is because I only got to do it one time, and I feel like I didn't like fully grasp like the best way to play a monk. So I would say if I had to pick based on just that experience alone, it's my least favorite. But I still think monks are badass. This is not me saying I don't like monks. Awesome. Please don't at me. Monks are cool as hell.
My very first character
cool.
was a monk.
But I
learned about
struggled
D&D
with it a little bit.
Maybe I'll try D&D. I got in touch with somebody I knew played and was like, will you run me a game? And they ran me a game and was like, what do you want to play? I was like, I don't know anything about it. What can I play? And they gave me a couple options. And tried like a one line of introduction to what each of the classes were. And when they got to monk, they said something like, it's kind of like a martial arts Jedi. And I was like, yes, that one. You don't need to talk any further. So they gave me a monk, and I loved it and got super hooked into D&D immediately.
But yeah.
And I think if you play them right, they're incredible. I think they're one of my favorite classes.
Yeah, if I get another chance, I'm definitely gonna give it another try, because I'd like to give them all a fair shot. Like eventually, I'd love to play every class, and I'm close.
I did
I would try Monk again for sure.
I did a session 0 with somebody and we were talking about characters and stuff, and I was trying to we were talking about character first, and then I will help them to put it into like the mechanics. I'll be like, you tell me what sort of a character you want to play, and then I'll tell you, it sounds like you want to play a warlock, or it sounds like you want to play a monk, or whatever.
Yeah.
And she goes, one of them says like, I don't really feel like monk because of I don't really like monks, and with them being one of my first my favorite characters, I was like, what is it about monks that you don't like? And she basically went on to describe that she's played it one time and she had a bad DM. And I was like, oh, okay. You don't not like monks. You don't like monks when they're played badly. She talked about how she couldn't really hit anything in the one shot that she ran because it was like a ghost, and she didn't have magic fist. And I was like, but everybody else in the party could damage them, and like, yeah, they had magic swords. I was like, well, that's bad DMing, that your DM has given the rest of your party the ability to hit ethereal creatures, and it hasn't given you the ability to do that. And then basically it's the same as saying I don't like fighters, because the one game that I played, my DM disarmed my character and then I couldn't hit anything because I didn't have a weapon. Like, okay, your GM took your character's your primary weapons away from you, and then forced you to play without
terrible. It breaks my heart to speak to folks who are like, I really wanted to get into D&D, I really wanted to get into this, but I had such a bad experience.
Yeah.
And it's like, please come play at my table. I'll fix that. Let me fix that for you. Let's play.
One of my best friends.
I want you to have fun.
One of my best friends, Spidey, he had a similar experience with knowing each other years, and for the first couple of years, he was like, D&D is not really for me, because, he talked about bad experiences. And eventually I got him to play one, and he is one of my most avid players now. He loves the game, and he's like super into. He's like verging on lap every time we're at the table. He's got a fake sword, and he's like sharpening it with a whiteboard marker, a whiteboard eraser, and next time we turn up, he's now got that, and he's also got like a stack of coins that he can like throw to me when he's buying things from the NPCs, and then he'll get up and he'll act out his sword fighting whenever he's fighting a monster, and I'll be like, we're like a costume, we're a cape away from you being a full on lap here.
Yeah. I love that. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's good. It's just fantastic to play with people whose enthusiasm you can see. And like you are passionate for this.
Yes, it's exactly why. Part of the reason why I really love teaching people who have never played before. Yeah. I love teaching new players. It is my favorite thing.
Yeah, seeing them get hooked on when they realize that penny drop moment of.
Giving them their good first experience is like my goal.
when they suddenly go, anything, I could do anything. And you see in their eyes either a moment of terror because of the choice paralysis, or a moment of supreme joy of like, oh wow, okay, I can unbound. I can unbound myself from the idea of thinking about like I can only do what my character is programmed to do. So like I can break the programming. This is like a video game, but the person is coding it in front of me, and they can make the video game do whatever I want.
Yep. All right. In real time.
Fancy asks, what tools do you use to help you when you're world building? That's a good question.
So many. My brain, Pinterest, internet, watching movies and reading books and TV and video games
those
and
things.
Absorbing those things.
Do you use any world building websites like World Anvil, Legend Keeper, Campfire?
Yeah. So right now I use Kanka.io. That's what I'm using right now because it has a lot of features that work really well for me. And you can do so much with the free version. This is not sponsored. They don't know who I am. But I like it. I started out using Notion. Actually, I originally started out using Google Docs, and that got out of control really quick. Then I switched to Notion. But everything I do is a combination of like whatever online platform I happen to be really into at the time. Right now, it's been Conca for the last year or so, and I think I'm gonna stick with it because you can get really in depth with it. And also, I have like my Miss Lost notebook sitting right next to me here, like much stuff that's in paper that I really need to type, but I haven't yet.
All the DMs can agree that the main issue, the big bad evil guy in their real life, is having. Where are my notes? where are my notes on that thing? Was that in the book? And you flick through the book? No, it must have been on Google Docs. Yeah. Was it on Google? Oh, it was when I had an iPad, so it's on Apple numbers or whatever. And you're like, oh no, it's not Apple. Is it on OneNote? I think it's on OneNote. Where did I put that?
I also have a Discord server that I put notes in too. So it's I had like a stint.
I had a stint where I was like for 2 weeks on. I was using Legend Keeper or something. Oh, was it on there? And everybody needing like I need to take a month off and just collate all of my notes into one location.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I really should do that too. Oh my god.
Maybe that's maybe that's a Kickstarter that I can do. A Kickstart to be like, hey, you can pay my rent for a month. I'm not going to be doing anything other than. Here's a Kickstarter to pay my bills for a month so that I can take a month off and collate all of my goddamn notes into one place.
I would contribute to that. Spectre Fae Conca's fantastic. I give Spectre Fae all of the credit for that because I didn't know it existed before she told me about it.
Nice. I'd never heard of it.
I use it for Miss Lost. It's great. Still with my paper because I just think better when I'm writing, like physically writing something down.
That makes sense.
So
a lot of people do.
More questions.
It's something that was studied a while back about like how students learn better when they're physically writing something, even more so than like typing something. So a lot of students are the university I went to. A lot of students were encouraged to like bring actual pen and paper, like type it up afterwards for sure, but like actually physically write it, and it does something to help it keep in the brain a bit better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fancy asks in under a minute for a short rest soundbite, because I usually try and take a snippet of these and put them out as
oh
YouTube
boy,
shorts.
okay.
In under a minute, what are your tips for people who are starting out DMing?
Okay, let me think about this for a second. You can just like edit this part out. Take an improv class. Consume a lot of media and draw inspiration from it.
100%, yeah.
Verse yourself in safety tools.
Yes.
Have fun.
Vital. Those are all amazing tips. That is amazing.
4 things. Boom.
Yeah, however many you want. Amazing tips. 100% agree very, very strongly with all of those. Steal ideas and things from everything. Steal themes.
Relentlessly.
Steal relentlessly.
Listen, there is no such thing as an original thought anymore. Just accept it. Done. Imposter syndrome.
The fun thing is,
that's just your brain.
I steal stuff that I've never watched. Number of times that I get to the end of like a thing, an end of an episode or something. Exactly, and people go, "Oh, it's like that episode. It's like the episode of the so and so anime," and I'm like, "Is it? I don't know." It was a cool story idea. Maybe I've seen it at one point, but more likely I just merged things together that I'd seen, and that's kind of how media is made.
Yeah, absolutely.
Joe Baby asks, if you could only DM or only be a player for the rest of your life, which would you choose? I feel like DMing.
Easiest question in the world, DMing. Yeah, 100%.
DMing for sure. There's something about being a DM that's just like so satisfying. There's things you get in DMing that you don't get from player, namely like when a long con pays off, when like it's something you set up in episode 1 and they finally like big reveals. I love those things. I love when somebody goes, "Oh my god!" and suddenly like things tick together and they go,
everything clicks. Yeah.
I think I know what's happening. I think I know who the big bad evil guy actually is, and I think I know what their actual plan is. Or like when they realize that there's another way than they've been doing. They've been like, we've been hammering our head against this wall and we don't know why we get. It's because this and this. Just seeing those moments. Just also the moments of just as a DM. The enjoyment that you get from just sitting back and watching 5 people role-playing around a campfire.
Oh my god. We do so much of that in Miss Lost. We're a very role-play heavy game.
Awesome.
We're gonna speed things up here pretty soon, but we're a very role-play heavy game. We're all very experienced in role-play, and I can, like, if I need to go grab a drink or something, or I have to go to the bathroom, I'm just like, guys, just role play. I'll be right back, and they will carry everything until I come back.
One of the best things about being at a table playing instead of like online is that ability for if I'm in a scene with this one guy and I'm like he's having a dream or he's gone off on a scouting mission or whatever, and I'm talking to this guy. These three are all talking in character around the campfire. They're just like, but they're doing it in a way that's not distracting from me or distracting us. Yeah. They're just like talking in character, and I kind of miss that whenever we're doing online stuff, because the mic's like, well, he's talking, it's equally important, and everybody's talking at the same volume, and unless we get like directional microphones that can help to be tough. I'm talking to this person, so I'm having this side conversation. I don't want to distract from everybody. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but I love that. I love that DMing when you've got a party of players that are so invested that you know that they will just go forever. There are times when I've had less than real time D&D session where like less time passes in the game than passes in real life, because they've just been arguing and like they've got like a moral quandary and they're arguing it out over a short rest, and I'm like, all right, you finally get to the end of the short rest and we're going to leave it there. That was 1 hour in game time. That was 1 hour in game time and 4 hours
10
game.
Minutes.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Felagund asks, what's your favourite class and why is it Ranger? I think he's trolling like Dungeon. Fella's a big advocate for Rangers and how amazing
Rangers are cool. You don't have to sell it to me.
They're very versatile. I love that Rangers
can very underrated.
Strength based, dex based. You can lean heavily into your wisdom. They can be very charismatic class. I do like a good Ranger. DM Dave asks, question for the DMs: what colour dice is the best to you to unalive your player? I fucking hate unalive.
Oh, no.
What colour dice is the best to you to kill your players? Also, follow-up question, what colour Speedo should a DM wear during... He's trolling me with the second part there, because he forced me to wear a golden Speedo.
Oh, golden? Why a golden?
Yeah, he forced me to wear a golden Speedo in like a photo shoot thing during Gen Con. It was...
So, why wasn't I there for that?
It was a whole thing.
Well, I'll show you what dice I have right now, and I'm not going to unalive or kill my players, but I have like these super cool
nice.
blacklight reactive green dice I got from Chessex, and then I also have a set of these giant ones. There's an eyeball inside.
Oh, those are cool. I want some giant dice.
I'll show you. It's got an eyeball inside.
Oh shit!
You can see it moving.
Oh, nice. Gross and
very
weird.
cool.
I love it.
Yes, so they're like dragon eyes.
Need a bunch of those and attach them to stalks.
Oh my god, yes.
And then have a beholder, a giant, like the biggest D20 in the middle, the beholder face, and then all of the other
big
ones.
Boy.
Where'd you get those?
Yes, Chad. Gen Con. I got these green ones at Gen Con too, but they were doing I bargained. They were selling like this and this one, and then a set of like regular sized ones, all with the eye in the middle. I forget how much it was at this point, but it was like a deal for the last day of Gen Con, and I was like, sold.
Good job.
And I was like, and give me a discount on this other one I'm gonna buy because it's Sunday.
Yeah, man.
And they did.
You don't ask, you don't get, right? And
listen,
Sundays,
I rolled my
Sundays
persuasion check and I got a nat 20.
Yeah, last days at the con. I was talking about that reminds me at Gen Con I was at a dice stall or something, and I was joking with somebody about how to make it work as a business model to have some dice, and the amount that you pay for the dice is what you roll on the dice. So like if you want this dice, you're like, you can have this dice, but you're going to pay me whatever you roll on it, and you roll a 14, you're like, $14, all right, it's $14 for the dice. And if you're really lucky, you go a 1, and you're like, $1 for the dice.
Here you go.
and I was like, that would be really interesting as a business model, like a little gimmick as a business model on the dice. And you'd have to set the price, you'd have to know that the cost, to recover your costs, it'd have to be less than half of the average of the dice, right? So like whatever the average of the dice is, it'd have to be less than that in order to make any sort of a profit on them.
Of course, now I'm fidgeting with this because now I remembered that it existed. I'm gonna put it down, otherwise I'm gonna be like just shaking it at the camera pretty soon. I love it because the eye moves. It's very fun for me.
All right, last question then. Last question came in from J Byorg. Okay. Is there any particular type of encounter or monster that you enjoy running the most? Ooh, a very good question.
I love a multi-stage monster or boss.
Yes.
Where
phases.
you get one health bar gone, and then you're in the next phase. Yeah, this isn't even my final form. That's my favorite.
I've done that a couple times
like a big
with the Viva
epic
guys.
fight.
There's like a thing that they're finally starting to cotton onto after 3 years, that there's a theme coming through it of like giants and resurrection. So like they fought a hill giant, and when they killed him, he came back with like black smoke coming out of his eyes at that point. And then they killed him again. And then they went and fought a frost giant who was already dead. And then when they killed him, he came back to life. So it was like the opposite of the first one. And then they killed another one, a stone giant, who was kind of healing with the black magic as he was doing. So each of them have had 2 health bars, but the ways that the health bars have been applied have been different every time. So first one was like living health bar, then dead health bar. The next one was dead health bar, then living health bar. The third one was living health bar, but he can heal himself by tapping into the dead health bar. And then the next one is going to be something else that they're coming up against hopefully in the next session. And I love that. Each of the giants has 2 health bars, but the way that they're implementing the different phases of the fight are different each time. So that's been pretty fun. I love that. I like that.
I'm planning, my players already know this, but I'm planning some like Shadow of the Colossus style things for Miss Lost. So that's going to be really fun. Like really, really big monsters where you have to like beat up certain parts of it to get it to go down.
Awesome. I love that. Yeah, I do love a good multi-stage battle, as long as it feels earned, right? As long as they've done something to like bam, trigger the next part. Especially like if it's not just take them away to X number of hit points and then move on to the next. Like if you can trigger the next stage of the fight by doing something else first, like as soon as you've killed, as soon as you've destroyed this thing or pulled that lever or whatever, then next stage of the fight. Yeah, I love that stuff.
Oh, we got one more. It looks like we got one more question. What is your
question? What is your opinion on DMPCs? Do you ever use a DMPC in your games? Somebody who joins the party?
I mean, I have had a lot of parties like find an NPC in the world and then just be like, can we adopt it? And it's sure, fine. I mean, if it makes my players happy, I'm okay with it. Yeah. But I do try to let them know, like, hey, you guys, their decision. You guys, this is up to you. If this happens, you might have to persuade them. You might have to whatever. Yeah. And you also need to understand that, like, this character is not going to be a focal point, really, of anything. Like, if you want him to be, them to be part of a scene, that's up to you. But remember that this game is centered around you. I don't want all of the scenes to be with this NPC. And that's a tough balance to strike because apparently I make very good NPCs. And they're just like, but I want to talk to him. That's the thing. Yeah, you and I are very much cut from the same cloth here. Like, like I had a guy whose whole thing, the character he was playing is like a young fella, maybe like 19 years old, but he's like super bravado and he's like super, I'm out on a quest to make a name for myself and to find out what happened to my father and whatever else, blah, blah, blah. And part of that was like recruiting people. He wanted to like, he was like a leader type. And so he was going up to pretty much any NPC who looked like they were capable in a fight and being like, well, you want to join team whatever? And like, like he's very much an anime character. He's like, you're going to join my team. And like, he'd be rolling persuasions to see if he can actually get them to join. And he ended up with like accruing a bunch of NPCs that were like, I don't want to be traveling with all these people. So they're going to be on your team, but they're going to go about their regular life until you call on them. Yeah. They'll be your ally in any big fight if you want them, sort of thing. That's so funny.
But the problem I have with the NPCs is just, I constantly forget that they exist. Like, if anybody's ever joined the party for any length of time, if it's an escort mission or whatever, like, the party are doing things, and then one of the party will go, what happened to Kettlestein? And I'll be like, oh yeah, she's here. She's there. She's also here. She's been here the whole time.
Yeah, you just forgot.
You forgot. She was keeping lookout outside the shop.
I actually think whoever asked that last question mentioned Kettlestein, so that might be why that question came up.
Yeah, probably. How would you control you guys are keeping us. You're not rushing off for time, are you? We're over time.
I'm okay for a little bit, yeah.
All right, last question. This is the last question.
Okay, this is the last one, you guys. Last one for real.
Scott Wolf asks, how would you control 2 large groups of NPCs fighting each other during a battle that don't impact the players? I do it off camera, or I do it narratively without any rolls.
Yep.
Depends. Like one of the ways that I do actually ties into the last question. One of the ways that I handled the NPCs during fights, where I don't want to like having more initiatives in a round. Like it's a non-linear increase. Every one person you add to an initiative adds more than just one person's worth of time to the combat, because suddenly there's the interactions between that person and everybody else that's already on the battlefield. And for every person you add, there's more connections added than just one more person. So it can slow things down to add initiatives, which is why I also hate conjurers and summoners. Fucking just slowing shit down. I'm gonna summon 12 wolves.
Why? Stop it!
Stop it!
Just summon one big one.
So what I tend to do is I will go, all right, you guys are fighting. Here's the initiative. Because you've got 2 NPCs with you, they're going to go off camera and fight some of the other bad guys, and I'm going to reduce the number of bad guys you're fighting, and I'm going to narratively explain what's happening off camera with them. Or if the NPCs are not, if the PCs are not included at all, like if they walk into a bar and there's a fight happening between 2 NPCs, that's entirely narrative. There's no dice needs to roll hands. I just decide which one's winning and when and how the punches and fights and things are going until one of the players decides to jump in. Then you can roll initiative and turn it into an actual combat.
Yep. Literally same. Although when it comes to like those narrative points, like if they walk into a tavern and there's a bar brawl happening, I'll roll a d20 and I'll be like, evens this person wins, odds this person wins, and then I will let it unfold from there. So pretty much same answer, honestly. If it's not involving the players, I don't have to roll a ton. I can just decide.
We're on a wavelength, you and I. We seem to work well together. I look forward to playing with you again at some point. I've got some projects coming up in the future that I'll keep you in mind for.
Oh, please do.
But until such a time, where can people find you?
You can find me all over the internet at the Mandii. You can see it on the screen. You can see it in chat. And that's it. And also on Mandii RPG, which I'm going to be on in like an hour and a half. Yay.
There you go then. So go check out the Mandii RPG.
Charity
and
streams.
You'll see the Mandii working on that. If you're here from the Mandii's community, I'm Robert Hartley, GM. I'm all over the internet at Robert Hartley GM. You can go to roberthartleygm.com for all of my links. You can also find me as the Dungeon Master for a comedy group called Viva la Dirt League over on Viva la Dirt League D&D on YouTube. We've got a long on-running campaign there. It's an actual play, but it's really easy to on-ramp because it's only half-hour episodes and it's focused on comedy, so you don't need to worry too much about like missing out on too much story and not knowing where the hell you are. Just jump in and enjoy it. Thank you very much for being here, Mandii. It seems like we're at the end of our short rest. I've got some hit dice rolled. I've got a couple of my spells back, and time to go slay those gremlins again.
Yeah, let's go slay those gremlins again.
Is there anyone online that you want to raid? I usually like to give it to my guests.
Looks like Mandii's live, so I would love to go right into them, especially if you want to raise some money for the kids. That's what we're doing tonight, all night.
All right, raid Mandii RPG. That should be working.
Stick
around for the raid, everybody. It's good for you guys to be given the chance to see other people get some broad content enjoyment.
For charity.
It's good for us because we get to see a bunch of viewers coming in and they're like, hey, look at this guy with all the viewers. And it's good for them because they get the viewers. So it's a win-win-win all around. Stick around for the raid, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, you've reached the end. This is the part where I've got to say something funny and or witty, and so like it and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.